Welcome back, everyone who has been tuning into all of this. We just had, I would argue, a pretty fast day. I think it was a lot more fight back from Elevate than what we saw at Flashpoint, but now we're going into set number 3. Cyclone, another team that was 12-0 during their online split, going up against Hype Unit, the number 2 team from the PML. So again, a bunch of players that you probably remember from when you started there, and of course should know, because I know you just hang around in the scene.
Well, I mean, I also had some of them at the Knight's house a couple days ago for the Chain Reaction podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Had some of them out on giving their opinions. They actually are a team that I think people originally thought got on the better side of the downfall Ferocity trade deal that happened earlier. I say trade deal. It wasn't a deal. Some people kind of just swapped teams, but people thought they ended up on the better side of it at first. But Sanguine kind of showed their dominance immediately after. As the season went on, Hype Unit kind of adapted, shifted, and they've been winning. I think they won last at 3-0, I believe I said last time. So
it's one of those big things. I think it was Stigma and Poison that got kind of swapped around through all of that. And there's the suit. That's what I've been looking at all day. I'm actually really happy to finally see that one in action. He was just chilling around, watching the games, making sure as they got set up. That is, the full suit. That's the thing that's impressive. You're rocking the plaid tie, the plaid jacket, and the plaid pants. Like, you've got the whole pattern.
Where did he get that? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah,
I mean, I could ask him, but
he'll tell you.
Just, I know he will.
You know the simple answer to everything about questions like that, Kresnik?
What?
The internet. Probably got it off the internet. Guess where I got this tie? Internet.
Is it the internet? It's a fantastic tie, by the way.
I love this tie.
You should.
I'm very, very happy with it. But hey, Cyclone, that is who we were just looking at. That was their coach that came through with that one. And they've got, again, a lot of players that have been throughout all of this, notably playing with a little bit of a different roster than they did throughout the entire time. Westside's going to be playing with them. But Slopodopoulos, not only one of my favorite names to say, but also probably one of the most impactful DPS players that we've seen on console. Notably, not one who's unwilling. Like, he loves pulling out Kinessa. He doesn't mind pulling out streaks. Like, he'll play whatever, you give him.
Yeah, and if you can play that on console, I think that's impressive. And it's great for, like, the flexibility, too. If you're one of the only players pulling that out, your drafts can be more unpredictable. You can just absolutely catch people off guard with it, especially on maps like this. I mean, I remember actually seeing him, I think, play Kin on this map, I believe, in one of the matches I casted. I don't want to sound like I'm making this up. I swear I'm not. No. I remember Dest, but I remember seeing it going on, and just being able to do that, I think, is really great for his team.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is having that flexibility, specifically from Slopodopoulos, but also having some prior LAN experience, some prior, I would say, everything from Smutny being able to come through. Someone who used to play, if you remember, a long time ago in the PGS for, I believe, Blazing Hussars at the time. Yes. Like, he's been a frontline player in the Paladin scene for a while. He has been playing this game for years, and I think we're going to see a lot from him today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been here before. He's been on PC before, so the cross-play environment really isn't going to be too surprising for them. And I think he's performed well, being having all that experience throughout time.
I think it's going to be a big matchup for them. So far, it's been an interesting split. Again, they were 12-0. They lost a few more maps than I think you would see out of some of the other console teams. I think 4 total all. They're 32 plus minus. Very solid, very dominating team. And I think also performing very well during the last console wars, being able to make it to the finals. The biggest question, I think, this time around is how they will fare against their opposition. We've already seen 2 PC teams come in, 2 PC teams move on. And the question is if Cyclone can take on Hype Unit, who I think is going to be a little stronger. That's probably where their mindset is now. And if I remember correctly, there are also a couple of the players that are running a little bit more mouse and keyboard. But hey, don't take it from me, take it from them. We're actually sitting down with the coach. I'm hoping we get more action on that suit as we go down to see how Cyclone's feeling before this set.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Down here in the Cyclone booth with none other than the man Beanie himself, dressed head to toe, looking good today.
Thank you.
Got the team all here. How are you guys feeling coming into this?
We're good. I'm personally a bit nervous because it's my first LAN, but everyone overall is pretty confident in this match.
It's good. You guys absolutely should be. Very dominant team throughout the split in the PCL. One thing we've kind of seen is sort of the transition between some players using the controller, some players flopping over to the opposite side, mouse and keyboard. How many of one or the other do you guys have here? I guess I see 2 or 3 across the board. What led to some of those decisions?
We just have 2 controllers, Dana and Welsh over there. Slop has played keyboards before, and I mean, Smutny's qualified for LAN on keyboards before, so it was a pretty natural transition for them.
It's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's comfortable anyway. Looking across the way, you guys got Hype Unit up first. How are you feeling about the matchup with them?
I feel confident. Yeah. I've been competing with those guys for 2 years now, maybe, so I know them pretty well. Right. And I'm pretty confident that we know more or less what they're going to bring out.
A lot of the talk today has been sort of the console meta, the PC meta. Anything interesting maybe coming out in drafts for you guys? You don't have to spoil too much.
Probably, yeah.
He's got some stuff up his sleeve. Well, good luck. Thanks for talking with me. Best of luck to you guys. Let's send it back to the desk.
If you're ever wondering how to answer that question without giving anything away, that's the way to do it.
I should do that next time.
Where,
I never know what to say in
there's
interviews
going
when
to be something
they ask
interesting,
me.
but that's all you need to know.
Like, what are you going to do to counter it? And it was like, oh, I just hope they're not listening to this, I guess. It's probably the only way.
But that's, as they said, coming through. A lot of competition. Players that have played on mouse and keyboard before. Players who have been in the PGS before. And I guess because of that, some players that have played against members of Hype Unit before. Specifically, the interesting, I think, trade-off that is going to be coming in today is they won't have Jay, who has been their point tank for pretty much the entire online split. They have William355, so absolutely someone who can be shuffled in for that. Someone who looks incredible. But, I mean, when you're on a team with T-Mac, when you're on a team with Tay, with Stigma, with Poison, everyone's going to look incredible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have a ton of players from all different experiences, like Poison previously in the PPL.
Yeah.
For Renegades, I thought he performed very, very well that season
yes,
overall,
absolutely.
especially for
Hands
a
down.
debut season. I think he played fantastic. Not returning to the PPL since, but he has been a force in the PGS through various different teams, and I think he's been a force for Hype Unit as well throughout the season.
He's one of those DPS players that if you go back and watch the games he played on even before this, before Nation Power, before Hype Unit, before any of this, when he was on Renegades, those are hands down some of the most impressive games. Like it will almost blow your mind to know that this guy isn't back in the PPL. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things. Ex-PPL player and Poison being able to come through. But also kind of catching my eye again, Tay has been someone who has been very, very prominent as an aggressive frontline. But the player that has won my heart, just because he plays Kness on Bray Marsh, has to be who's going to be kind of the DPS duo, the counterpart here to Poison, and that is going to be Stigma. What is it, I guess, that gives Stigma, his Stigma? What is it that gives him the power that he's been able to bring?
He's always been like a sleeper in this scene, you know? He always played on like the bottom PGS team or just on a random team where you'd meet him in a pub and he would just destroy you and be like, who is Stigma? He's been around forever, but, you know, since joining Ferocity, moving to Hype Unit after the whole shift happened, I mean, he's really made a standout name for himself. He would definitely, he's a LAN rookie, so unproven in this environment, but I mean, if he performs the way he did online here, that's a scary Stigma, especially with the LAN upgrade. a couple of
LAN rookies, I believe, on this team as well, but at the same time, a couple of veterans from that point. They've been playing again for a long time. You had mentioned on Cyclone that they had been coming around. But I guess I want to kind of shift the conversation. The damage is going to do really well. They both have performed well in the past, either on LAN and the PPL, wherever you want to look at them. But Tay and William355, I guess, is where my conversation is going to be directed, because Tay's been playing with Jay this entire time. Do you think changing that in is going to be big difference, or do you think that it's going to be a plug and play?
I think it's going to be an upgrade only purely because of, it's a less risky roster, right? Like, you come in with Jay, that's a LAN rookie in Stigma, true. And Jay and Tay. That's it could be a little shaky depending, but, you know, looking at now bringing Will in, someone who's, you know, upset the #1 team before, that's a huge upgrade.
Well, hey, we can throw it down to someone who happens to share a name with me, the guy who's coming in as the sub right now for Hype Unit. We have Dave standing by with William355.
Thank you very much, guys. Down here in the Hype Unit booth now with William355 standing next to me. Everyone's here. All the traveling is done. How's the team feeling coming into your first game at the MSI?
We're feeling good going into this matchup. We're obviously this is our first match. We're thinking that we could take this easy within 4 games or so.
You think? The trend so far has been 3-0s for the minor league teams. Do you think that trend continues here? You guys maybe feeling a 3-0?
Ideally, we're looking for a 3-0, but obviously we're not going to underestimate Cyclone. We know that they have strats prepared for us, and we know that Beanie, their coach, has a lot of data on us. So we're going to go in trying our best and looking for the obvious 3-0 sweep. But if not, you know.
I mean, looking at that, you talk about maybe some strats. Is there anything maybe specific? Just because they're a console team, I know they have a few guys on mouse and keyboard, but looking towards drafts, is there anything that you maybe expect to come out from them over there?
I mean, we did see the elevate 3 tank double healer stuff. We're watching out for that. We'll try to set up our bans so that we don't get destroyed by that comp. We'll have something to destroy those tanks off point, and obviously we also know that the console really likes their hit scan champions: Talus, Koga, Victor, Tyra. we got to watch out for those.
Feeling confident for sure. Well, best of luck to you guys. Thank you very much for chatting with me. Let's send it back to the desk and get this set started.
I don't think William355 has ever not looked stylish. That's the first thing when I saw him again wearing the sunglasses. Like, all I could remember is flashbacks to the last time I've seen him on LAN, where I think last time he had a scarf.
I was literally going to say,
kind of missing the scarf.
I wish
honestly.
it was cold enough for the scarf. Maybe he just saves it for the bathroom here.
Just says, oh,
if
yeah,
you guys
the
don't
bathroom
know,
is freezing.
the bathroom is freezing, and it only has cold water.
Also only has cold water. Actually, it's one of those things. I have to get the blood pumping in my fingers again afterward. Like, you get stiff. Either way, everything looking pretty good. Seems calm on Hype Unit, but still prepared. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, Sanguine seemed very calm, and they knew they were going to win. Hype Unit seems a little bit more, I want to say, on the fence about how confident to feel.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's the smart way to do it. You know, you want to come in prepared for what the console team might be pulling out. And if you underestimate them, that's how you're going to get slammed by them, I think. Like how close that Elevate Sour team game was. You know, I don't know if they were ready for those strats specifically to come out. And, I mean, it hit them pretty close here. Splitstone Quarry, also, I wanted to point out also a Bright Martian Jag banned, which are maps that kind of have the most flexibility in those strain strategies in those triple tanks. So by banning them, again, it's more of respect towards the console teams and the strats they might bring out.
I mean, not only that, but you were talking about this, and we were talking about this coming into this week in general, but this is two of the maps I would argue that the console players love. Again, it enables specifically Jaguar Falls when I zoom in on this, but we've seen Lex on Jag Falls in the PPL. We've seen Moji. We've seen Buck come through. Like, it's a map that allows you to play a little bit of a different style if you so choose. And so it's not too surprising to see that just kind of scooped away. I think the same thing can be said for Frog Isle on the other side, where snipers reign supreme. Because even though Slop loves playing Canessa, loves playing Victor, loves playing Strix, it's maybe not number one on their list for this matchup.
Yeah, wow, interesting bans. I mean, Leon banned out. I think maybe they're not afraid of Cassie, considering the console players. They don't think maybe they're as experienced with it. So getting rid of that. And then Cyclone choosing not to ban any of the strong off tanks. They might be looking just to limit the point tank here, get their Inara. But giving, I don't know about giving Hype Unit double off tank, considering William historically has been a strong off tank.
And I mean, being able to run it, like, this is actually one of the things, you know, Atlas, we've not really seen him successfully run as a point tank because he's never picked up like that. He's always picked up with a Barrack, with an Inara. So they get this Inara, but the thing about Makoa Khan, which is, if I'm anybody, that's what I'm locking in right here.
Of course.
Makoa can run a point tank. We saw that earlier. Worked out pretty fine. Khan has been run as a point tank in the past. He's even run as a solo tank and found success in the past. So if you're looking at just this frontline matchup, just the four that have been picked, are you leaning towards Hype Unit?
I think so. I think just having the pick potential is so strong. And if you can time through the Inara's cooldowns, you can just burn her really quickly with either the overpower or just a hook. Splitstone Quarry has a lot of places for insta-gibbing. Like in the midst of the fight, whether it's the fidget spinners. Well, sorry, that's actually just what the teams call it. Whether it's the fidget spinners or the lava on the side, there's a lot of ways to just really quickly confirm a kill and get back to it. I think Hype Unit has the better comp for like a slow game.
You don't see lava kills anywhere near as often as the fidget spinner of death. No, on the that's actually the one side I think we've seen one jolt. No, not even jolt. It was just one poppy bomb. I can't even remember who it was. It was insane. I loved it when we saw it. Again, doesn't happen too often. Most of the fights on the other side. And when you're on Splitstone, like you said, Makoa, Overpower for the Khan, both of those are going to be very good at insta-gibs. Geno's locked in, Tyra locked in, very good at dealing with front lines, very good at amping damage. But is there anyone that can close out Cyclone's draft that you think is going to make them stellar?
I think something like a Maeve would be really strong because the mobility plus this Cat Burglar plus Luminary plus Hunter's Mark boost is unreal. I believe it does like 700 per shot at that point. I see your face right now. They can't see it, but it's very scary. It does a lot, but
I don't like those numbers, Kresnik. That scares me.
I think Hype Unit have a good answer to it because they have the Scout for the Midnight if they tried to do that. Also, Cassie's really good into both those tanks. Not only is she good into the Inara by bursting through the damage reduction, but Big Game doesn't get cleansed by Atlas Reversal, by Atlas Rewind.
Yeah.
So if you get him really low and then he rewinds, you're still getting that chunking large health damage.
So here's the question I want to ask you. Inara, we've seen this pair before, but it never works out well with Genos behind her. Is it just like his healing just isn't usually enough to keep her going, even
if you
with
end the fight
sponge?
Fast, it can. And they might be looking to end the fight fast, maybe really aggressive, boosting the Atlas, maybe boosting whatever flanker they get, or they could just go with the Pip and get that secondary healing. I said it as it happened. They could get the secondary healing to keep their kind of thick tanks alive. Yeah.
And that's going to be the big thing. I think I'm actually most excited to see this frontline matchup, but Strix is locked in on the one side, so Hype Unit are going to have themselves a little bit of a range advantage. Based on these drafts, are you going to be leaning one way or the other?
I think Hype Unit will win if they play into their Strix's sightlines.
If they play into it.
Because they have tanks that can get aggressive enough to go out of it. They just need to be mindful.
They just need to be mindful. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Of course, Makoa Khan, it's kind of hard to argue against those kinds of power picks for me. But I'm excited to see what Cyclo can do, but we're going to go down to the casters for this set to kind of take us through and see who they think is going to be able to win this first map.
Wow, wow, wow. Hype Unit about to get hype here in the building, and of course Cyclone trying to quell the hype just a little bit here. Rain Day and Pretty Hair on the cast for this set. It's our third of the day as we head into the MSI, and these two drafts looking pretty imposing on both sides.
Absolutely. Some serious power picks for the Hype Unit. Some serious style to boot. See if Beanie and the boys of Cyclone can do something to compete. They've drafted a higher, I think, execution style of composition than we have seen from other console teams previously today. So looking forward to see how they're able to execute on this one. It shouldn't be too difficult, and I think they definitely have drafted themselves some win conditions. Tons of damage amp. If they can get the stars to align on that front, they're going to be swinging.
Smutney here, a former PC player, now on the side of console and representing quite well for Cyclone. Hype Unit, though, these guys have put together this team from the beginning, or probably around the mid-season, to really be able to dominate in this specific moment. But they've got a lot of work to do here as they head over to the left side on Splitstone. Already a little bit of control on the objective, about 10%. That's what the Inara will do for you. William 355 is actually going to get a lot of pressure onto him. Shield almost already gone.
One of the few Tyras we've seen come through today. It's been a pretty popular ban thus far. One of the picks we talked about gaining popularity and gaining strength towards the end of the split. First Blood, Second Blood do go to console.
And Stigma misses kind of an open line of sight there onto the Jidos, but oh boy, he does not miss onto the Tyra. Welsh goes down. Strix holding that line of sight really well.
That's huge. Nice. Finds another shot on Renara, dismounts her, take her longer to get back. 21% grab for console with the Hype Unit. 60% off to the races. Ultimates starting to crest almost the 70% mark if you're looking at Stigma.
And very, very interesting why he dropped there to the low ground. Feels like the high ground might have been a better spot for him still, but we'll leave Strix to his own devices for now. The point being retaken. The Firebomb will clear them out for a moment. Poison here also getting low, and they're counting on the Makoa to feed some of these hooks and create some setup, but that wall is going to quell that for now.
Playing carefully, not wanting to get too close to Makoa. Of course, he's a big threat to almost anyone. Atlas as well. Some big burst damage potential with the amount of damage amp that could align on Cyclone. You can see Hype Unit is treading carefully. 96 to 69% and climbing. This one still has not been a landslide either way.
No, and it's very important. William is really treading a dangerous game, much more dangerous than the Inara here, who has so much health, and there it is. Thanatix and Slop, they find two. Poison, though, answers back to Welsh, and it's Cyclone in a pretty even fight who take the first point over the minor league competition.
The Nictistic, man. Everyone who uses their ultimates first wins that first round fight. It comes up, the Evil Mojo, the Crossfire, the Seismic Crash, it's all good. The only thing that really came out in response was a Dread Serpent, but there was nobody really in line of sight to follow that up. Very nicely done. Patiently played by Cyclone as well. Sometimes that patience, especially in your first game on land, is something that is just not there, but they do a really, really nice job taking that fight slow and steady.
Yeah, and you know what? Such dangerous compositions, but it just felt like the Firebomb and the pressure. I want to give a big shout out to Welsh Mania here, who obviously is one of the better console players that we have in our scene, but really the Firebombs have applied a lot of pressure onto the front lines, and sometimes Tyros make use of that. Sometimes they're more making use of the Hunter's Mark. You seem like you're getting the best of both worlds here with Welsh, and that's really making a difference.
Speaking of Firebomb, I feel like Stigma is playing with fire right now. He is very, very pushed up. Technically on the high ground, yes, but there was points in that fight where he was the most extended member of the Hype Unit squad, including his front line. So not afraid to get up in the faces of Cyclone as long as he's on the high ground. But you did mention he did drop at one point, and that was, you know, for better or for worse, correlation may not be the causation, but they did start to lose that fight after he dropped.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was trying to figure out, you know, what the purpose of that was. We'll maybe revisit that thought in the next round as we get a chance to follow him. Big time shot with a flare. At least he trades out, and he gets Welsh off the board, which is huge. Don't want that damage amp coming through from the Tyra as this push continues, but the push does continue, and Cyclone, 50 seconds left in their payload. They will actually have a chance to kind of submit this here. They're going to go for a big ultimate by Inara. What can they find?
40 seconds on the clock now, trying to mark the Sonara up to keep her safe, but Cyclone support cannot keep the front line alive. Tay's already found 2.
Big time stuff from him, and that's what the Makoa will do. You talk about Cassie, you talk about Tyra, you talk about all these champions that can snowball fights, but don't you forget about a Makoa. He's one of the best in the business at doing that once he gets a rolling. It is hard to stop the shell from spinning. And 20 seconds left now. They will get one more go at it, especially with the Strix in the background. He can't push up too far, so they'll play this one cautiously.
Let's look at what's available. I mean, we have the time and space, we have the Exile, but a lot of what won Cyclone this point fight is not available. They tried to sort of rinse repeat with that same style of team fight, but it didn't carry the same weight, didn't grab the same value. Poison finds first blood in this final defensive fight as well.
And that's huge, is what, giving Stigma the room to go and just really operate, knowing that one of the DPS is down, and that's just going to be a full defense for the side of Hype Unit. They've lost that earlier round, which is not what we expected, but CycloneGG have not been able to push, albeit they have rounded most of the corners here, and that was a lot better than some might have assumed. So as we start to see more and more of these console versus PML matchups, we're starting to see a little bit more parity.
Yeah, some serious ultimate deficits, though. Here was the fight that won it all for Cyclone. Initially, they got their ultimates off first by just a little bit. You can see some of the return fire here with the Dread Serpent, things of that nature. But nobody there to follow up directly. Stigma tried to be there. Big shots from Slop. But they are lacking that Evil Mojo. They are lacking that Seismic Crash, and they are lacking that Crossfire that won them the first fight. You look over at Hype Unit, they ain't lacking a damn thing except for 5% on that Overpower.
And that is something that they're going to have to figure out here on the fly, especially since these ultimates will come up mid-round instead of at the start, so you cannot play around them. It's going to be a lot of improvisation for Cyclone, and they're looking for it. There have been a lot of really good unstable fissures here from William. Excuse me, not from William, from Thanatix. And that's an attempt, I believe, not at the Overpower quite yet, but the Scout does open up. Almost the Fear gets him to run into the Grinder, but not quite. And he goes in there anyways. T-Mac, he realizes after the pressure from the Damba that it's just all over. Cyclone have completely wiped. Hype Unit have full control. They're just going to try it one more time.
Again, playing smart. The first point fight played very, very slow, steady. Cyclone realized they are going to lose this fight. That's just the way it's going to be. Overpower will connect, delivers a Tyra to Poison. He gets the slay, and that is yet another great start to the secondary fight.
But they don't have enough on the point, and they lost William. So that's been the main point figure for them. Tay has been playing these corridors and in the aggressive slot. So without William here, they are going to give up this point pressure and probably wait it out. There's still time, and Smutny with the wall, able to just get a little heal from Pip. Slopodopoulos was crucial in finding the kill on the Stigma. Can he do that this round? He's got to bail out his front line. He goes in the ultimate. He gets 2, but he can't quite finish him off.
Too afraid to push it, or just realizes there's no chance he makes it out alive and might even get a kill if he takes the risk there. Seismic Crash goes to the high ground. I don't see anyone get stunned down. Hook into the fidget spinner and the shell shield. He gets out safe.
Not quite over, though. Slop can go big here. He's got the heal as well. He's saving it. Beautiful play. Could have used it to top off. Doesn't need it, though. He's going to use it to try to full heal, and he gets a teammate in as well. Great stuff from Slopodopoulos on the 3 streak. Smutny trying to get back into the fight, and Welsh has just a bit of health. He gets the Astral Mark, and that's the extra damage. They will be able to burn down William if he gets too aggressive, and that's the Commander's grab he just has, and the Dread Serpent opening up some space.
An Exile back and forth here. Something's got to get going for one of these teams. A lot has hit the wall. There are no more ultimates available for the next time being. 90% for Cyclone, 90% nearly for Hype Unit.
That's huge. Now he's got the Firebomb. That kill sets off the elimination reduction, and that means that he's getting more and more access to these heavy, very long cooldowns, and they get William. There's no one on the point. They've got to aggress. Double kill as well. Can he get the lifesteal?
Hit it, baby.
He might get 3. He's trying to go for 4. Crossfire here. The quadra kill for Welsh. And Hype Unit put into the dust. Cyclone like a tornado spinning through.
He's got ammunition left to spare. Sprays the corpse. Hits the Paladin spray as well. Welsh Mania certainly feeling good after that one. CycloneGG put together yet another masterful team fight. Going fishing a little bit with that time and space. MSI won't come up with anything, not on one bit. There's plenty of time to get that recharged.
And I think if you get a pick there, that keeps your momentum so much past this first choke. And it honestly still keeps their momentum because they kind of just regroup. You know, whenever you hear that ultimate, you kind of just stall a little bit, take stock. Did anyone die? Where'd he come from? You know, you have some information you try to figure out. And so it buys them a bit of time. But how impressive that was, I thought, just seeing the way Welsh has been responding today. It's been really, really strong from Cyclone thus far.
One thing I questioned from Hype Unit in that previous point fight was why does that Khan need to throw that overpower from such an aggressive spot? You know what I mean? With all those enemies around, I feel like you could sit under the bleach, right?
Yeah.
Like way back a little bit. That first overpower, I feel like that you could sit safely with your whole team under the bleachers, nab somebody and throw them and get the insta-gib into the fidget spinner, whether it's a Gnar, whoever it is. It happened to be Tyra that time. But one of the only things you can do to fight against overpower is to try and kill that Khan, because he is relatively a sitting duck while he's holding on to his target.
It's like somebody's got, you know, in a movie, let's use it just to, you know, make sure that it's trivialized here. Somebody's got a gun to your head in a movie. You can't run at them because they've got, or the gun to a hostage, right? You can't run at them because the threat is there. They didn't play around the threat as much. They kind of wasted the opportunity to be threatening. If you play Smite, very much like a mirror freeze, as long as you're holding on to that freeze, you can't get too close to him because you know you could get basically CC'd to death, and that's the end of the game. So a lot of times we'll see Phoenix just sit on that right side. He won't move. He just says, I'm here. If you guys want to come down this tunnel, you will get thrown instantly to your death. And that itself is enough pressure for them. But I don't know, Nick. It feels like Cyclone are applying so much pressure. Whether you do it, whether you don't, they seem to be making it through these chokes and having a lot of success.
No matter how you slice it, Cyclone has put together a lot of good team fights. That's just good old-fashioned wins at the end of the day. Hype unit need to find a new strategy, especially in these mid-fights. They have not gone on the offense yet. They have lost the old-fashioned way both times so far. Frankly, having an incredibly large ultimate advantage in that previous point fight, Cyclone were still able to get it done.
Westside has the ultimate charged up. No one's paying attention to him. This could be a good time, but I think he realizes it's just a lost cause. There's no one there to be able to push. They've lost Smutney, and it's going to go 2-2 yet again. It's been almost a mirror point fight. It's been almost a mirror push, getting to about the same spot, and slowly but surely not having an overtime contest. But the point fight started out both in different ways, and it's been really elongated. Both these teams having a good chance to seize the opportunity.
So much damage amp on this squad. A lot of potent auxiliary damage dealers to sort of leverage that. The Atlas doing good damage. Pip does great damage. And there's nobody to dive this Tyra. She's not only the source of a lot of this bonus damage amp to that Atlas, to that Pip, but she brings a hell of a lot of pain on her own, as you just saw there, Westside. Final to fall there as Welsh grabs himself the quadra kill. Plenty to worry about with this Tyra. Lots of resilience starting to come online for Cyclone. Another 5 ultimates to boot, but this time Cyclone have 5 to answer.
And that is going to make a difference here. The Scout already opening things up.
Flank?
Welsh Mania able to find a very, very crucial kill. Big hook as well. Tay finds Slop, and that is such a big part of the damage. But the Khan, has he been able to find anything? No, not at all, and that's the Makoa who goes down.
Nice firebomb to the high ground as well. Forces Cassie and Maldamba back. Fanatix needs to be careful here. He sort of just wanders out into the point. Passes out, no sustain there to keep him alive. Cyclone have to fall back as Hype unit take the first steps onto the objective.
And this is where we've seen things get a little weird, a little awkward, especially because they don't have that same type of sustain that Cyclone have in the Inara and the 2 healers. An overpower missed by William, and the chicken.
Oh, sir.
Don't have to say anything, but dinner is served. The kids come to eat real quick, and they're already on the round for seconds. Big hook as well, but a setback, a second chance is going to give him exactly one of those, and Vanatix remains alive.
Unfortunately, Seismic Crash doesn't look like it hits anyone. No one to dive Tyra, but no one to dive Strix either. Stigma is left completely uncontested here on the high ground. One of the best snipers in the business at the moment, trying to find a couple of shots onto Inara. 87% for Cyclone, and 84% in climbing, now tied up by Hype unit.
They're trying to shut him off. There it is. See you later. Can't play for about 3 seconds, and that is going to do a big deal of damage to them because that sniper is so much of the pressure that they have on Splitstone Quarry. Smutney throws the wall up. He'll buy some time, and that's a commander's grab used to just touch the point. That's a problem. William 355 in the dirt. It's going to be Cyclone most likely taking this point again, and now they've got a chance to push and take game 1.
That is Cyclone all 3 rounds in a row just winning the fight. Nicely done. They get it again a 3rd time here, maybe with the chance to push this one through. Because the game could be ended in this round, you might see Cyclone change their strategy, meaning they'll pop ultimates. They will try and put their foot on the throat of Hype unit here and get this first map. And I think in these best of 5s, this first map is very important for momentum.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you just talk about the fact that even if you lose the next map, you get your pick of the map to be able to go in the go-ahead game, whether it's 2-1, and then if they tie it up, it's 3-2. So you put yourself in the driver's seat for choosing your map to really win the set on, even if you lose every other game from that point. And that's why CycloneGG, along many other reasons, is talking about proving themselves, talking about continuing on in this bracket that they've traveled here for and prepared for weeks, months even. They are looking to win and push this one in, and they are 1:30 left, Nick. They've rounded the corner that's taken them essentially a minute to do. More than this other than last round.
Setting a good pace, and Nora pops the Earthen Guard. You're looking to get aggressive here on the Khan. There's a Dread Serpent coming out on the back line here. A big skirmish happening. However, it's not going the way of the defense. Ancient Rage is popped just to try and keep this fight together.
And they're going to lose too. It's a 2-for-1 trade. They do drop Vanatix, but they get Tay, and they get another huge pickup earlier on. Poison on the Cassie. Westside finds Tay, as we mentioned, and he's got that through time and space. He could use it to close things out. That's the wall, and they don't see him at all. Stigma got caught looking in the scope. Welsh finds another one. Cyclone, it looks like they're going to take it. No Ancient Rage. The Makoa, he's going to fall, getting immediately annihilated. And Cyclone and Console, they take their first game of the MSI.
Oh, and Beanie comes ripping through the studio. The coach for Cyclone running at full speed back to congratulate the boys. Best of 5.
Are we going to war?
They are quick, they are quick sets, man. So Hype Unit has got to be able to bounce back there. Cyclone elated with the first game upset. I love it.
That was a Sparta charge if I've ever seen one. This man, we saw him run through this whole hallway.
He can move.
He really can move. He might be in the wrong sport. You need to actually get in real sports instead of esports here. Let's send it back to the desk as we break down our first win for Console on the day.
They're not going home winless. Cyclone bring at least one today. And honestly, that's the one team I think everyone was sleeping on. Like Hype Unit, very obviously as well. Not quite prepared, I think, for what they were brought today.
Yeah, definitely. Really, Hype Unit just looked like they couldn't deal with the sustain, honestly. Like, just the Inara with the Genos, they couldn't get through it. The Tyra was applying too much pressure for them to go around the wall when she was walling herself off on point. They just could not deal with it. And I think Hype Unit were underestimating them 100%.
Yes.
And I say that purely because of the first round buys.
The first round buys.
I mean, Stigma had killed the heal,
yeah.
And I think Tay had Chronos.
Not the most successful things that we've ever seen.
Definitely
not item-wise.
Something they would not be running in almost any other situation, and I think it bit them. I mean, they lost the first mid, they got the defenses, but it really just snowballed against them.
And so that's actually the biggest thing. Stigma, if I remember correctly, actually ended up having a pretty solid slash line, a lot of damage on his side as well. What was it that Cyclone kept doing? Like, obviously it was the point fights, but what was it that was just giving them that leg up every single time?
They were just giving him sightline denial. They really couldn't. The Tyra mark kept a lot of pressure on him. They always knew where he was going to come from, so they could always rotate away from him. He even tried to be really cheeky that one round where he mounted straight through lava and then dismounted there, but he didn't get any kills. He applied some pressure from behind, they marked him, they hid, and Stigma had to rotate again back to his team.
So would you call, like, this is, I guess, the question, and I think we'll know more after map number 2. Is that the Rude Awakening for Hype Unit, and you think they're going to lock down for this next map? Or do you think this is, like, the beginning of Cyclone being able to be the only console team that goes past this beginning day?
I think that's going to depend on how well the newbies take their first loss at LAN.
True.
Because if Stigma and Tay are not ready. Like, if Will could probably be, I mean, I know Will's a very active talker. He could probably amp everybody back up. But if Stigma and Tay take that very hard, it's going to be very hard, I think, for Hype Unit to at least get their heads back in the game.
Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I think that's a good way to start a set. If Hype Unit win that one, and even if it's a 4-2, it's kind of like the sit back and be like, okay, well, we're in for more of the same. It's going to be another like 3-0, maybe some 4-3s in this one. Cyclone starting it off, being able to pick up a lot. It's not his glasses. Reflecting in his glasses, the nice bright flashing. That's got to be.
That was distracting him the whole game. That was it. That's the PC excuse.
That's the PC excuse.
My keyboard
when
was
they
too nice.
lose, that's going to be the tweet.
My keyboard was too nice. My team did the draft. Oh, sorry. That's a
My team did the drafting for me. No, either way, it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back on the side of Hype Unit. Again, not necessarily foreign to losses. They've taken them online before, but it has been very big ones, and specifically against Sanguine, so not exactly the end of the world when you're losing to the #1 seed that came out of North America.
Yeah.
When you're losing to Cyclone, it's a little bit of a different story for them, so I think this is either going to be a rude awakening, but I don't know for which side. It's either going to be for Hype Unit, and they're going to be like, cool, we got to lock down and take this seriously, or it's going to be for Cyclone. and they're going to be able to lock down themselves. So we're going to Ice Mines. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, I'm feeling like it's Ice Mines. It's going to be potentially a long-fought game. The most important
That's 100% accurate.
The most important thing I think for Cyclone is to not get too caught up in the win, right? Because if you get overzealous and you play a little bit too aggressive or a little bit too excited on a 3-3 point fight in Ice Mines and you lose, that's such a drain. That is such a drain for you as a team, you know, if you lose that fight when you were up through it. So they have to really be able to at least level themselves out after that win. I'm sure they're happy they're the first the first team to get a map off the PC teams today. And we'll have to see how they adapt from it. And Drogo's ban, after how good the Drogo's was in the first map against Elevate, I think is one way to adapt.
I'll be honest. I was sleeping on Cyclone. Like, looking at this, I think this was, outside of Elevate's Sour Team, maybe the most winnable console matchup for today, but I didn't know a Cyclone had what it took. You know what I mean? That's one of the things, like looking at them throughout the split, they've done really well. In the past on lands, they've done really well. And given their player history, they do really well. Like, there's no reason truly to doubt them, just that when it comes down to it, specifically your EU Xbox usually isn't quite the most winning of all of them. I think actually, except for the last one at DreamHack, the last Console Wars, they always got first rounded. It was always like a 3-0. It was always really quick. So having them come through, find themselves a good win, keeping track of, I would say, the hype for the European Xbox players.
Mm-hmm. And what I mentioned about the respect before, I think, I'm not sure if this is a BM ban or if this is the respect ban, but I mean, Talus getting rid of that comfort for them, something to shake them up a little bit. I don't know if they were even expecting to be able to play it, if they don't think it's good against the console players. Barrick? Banned again for them. Interesting. Maybe they really are looking for that point tank denial strategy. I wouldn't be shocked to see Hype Unit honestly first pick an Inara here to try to shake them up.
I mean, just being able to do that to lock them down. Because, I mean, what do? If you first pick Inara,
they
give up Makoa Atlas. Or Makoa Khan, whichever one you're more comfortable with.
I would say Makoa Atlas, I think, are the stronger duo.
So, actually, I guess this is going to be the one. You, as Hype Unit, I keep seeing the HU and wanting to say a different team. As Hype Unit, you have the choice. You could go like Inara Khan, which gives up Makoa Atlas, or you could try to get Makoa Khan and give up Inara Atlas. Which one of those kind of pairings do you think is stronger?
You could actually start Atlas. Oh, they do pick. Okay, they do first pick Inara.
Oh, true. Actually, starting Atlas would have been.
You could start Atlas, then they go Makoa Khan, and then you end, or Makoa Inara, and then you end up with like Atlas Khan, play Khan point tank. You have that denial on like you can get longer setbacks, send them a mile back on Ice Mines because it's just so big. That were the options, but they decide to deny the point tank instead. They really don't care what off tank they get. But Cyclone, I think, get the better end of this personally with Makoa Atlas, a very strong combination.
I think my biggest thing for Hype Unit here is actually going to be whether or not they lock in Khan here. Like, it's one of those things you can, well, they do. I was going to say do it to kind of hide your hand, keep your DPS picks for a little later. Or you could go for your DPS, get your biggest top priority picks right now, because I was about to say I doubt they're going to pick triple frontline, but we've seen enough triple frontline today that I can't rule it out.
I wouldn't be surprised in Ice Mines. I mean, tanks have always been really strong, but into Inara Khan Tyra, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off. They need to really find a way onto the Tyra if they run that, and I don't think they think that can happen. Maybe if they do an Ashe, and they don't think they'll get overpowered, but that's kind of like the risky play. And I think after a win like that, I think they want to play more the sure thing, something they're more comfortable with.
I mean, it's one of those things. Last game, being able to run Inara, Atlas, Genos, Tyra, Pip, like it's pretty much all down paper. Like it's all everything you would expect. The Pip coming through was a very good call, as you had mentioned, to kind of give that double support. But now you have Maldamba. Like you're not using Genos, at least not yet. We have, I will say, in the past seen binary start Genos from console teams. I doubt we're going to see that come out in a match like this, but just making sure I cover all of my bases for all this. But I mean, Makoa, Atlas, and Maldamba together, that's nowhere near as prone to dying. You don't have to go for a Pip if you don't want him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Victor is a strong pick for console teams in general. Obviously, it's something they're used to. And on this map, he's pretty good. I mean, he can kind of get you when you're hiding in the window area. His ult is really strong for countering like certain pushes. Like you can just totally zone the wall side if they push. They have to hide, and you can take some ground in that time. And you know, Makoa Atlas, if they get that ground, it's hard to shake him out of it.
Time to take charge.
Pip Ying coming from a Hype Unit, which is interesting. It's a lot of sustain. I mean, the Pip isn't for the sustain. It's for the chicken on the Makoa, just the burst damage around corners and stuff like that. And the supplemental healing is pretty nice too.
I was wondering if they were going to give us any console flavor. And I guess the answer had to be yes. They're hovering Grok right now on the other side. But Ying, I will talk about since she is fully locked in. That was the one. I think actually you are the one I quote every time I ask for it, where it's just she's Maldamba 2. Like she's just Maldamba, but a little bit different. Like a couple of things that are changed. The cloning. Perfect. There it is. Maldamba the cloning, and now Grok locked in. Now, because Maldamba's there, I'm assuming this is going to be Maelstrom Grok. How do you feel about that?
I think Maelstrom Grok is pretty strong, especially into the Inara. The con kind of negates it a little bit, but just the ability to constantly farm the Inara, and with the fact that they have double healer, they might be able to out-sustain it still.
And you can bounce them off the Yin Clone, so like you have plenty of targets there for Cyclone to be able to take advantage of it. Not something I've seen in, well, a while. Months, maybe? I think it was the last time. Like, Grok just doesn't get played that often anywhere, even on console lately. He hasn't been picked up.
Yeah, it's a niche pick, but Ice Mines is definitely a fantastic map for it, especially because the ult makes you so fast. You can cover so much ground in the mid. It's so important, but it's so small. If you can get from one side to the other and you have your two super aggressive tanks, that fight's over.
I mean, shout-outs to Watkins for making a big play on Grok on this map. It comes through. Tempest can be really, really huge. Can also go short. We'll have to see how Cyclone play it as we go into Ice Mines. So we have Dave and Nick standing by.
Again? I can't believe it. It wouldn't be a rain day cast
Feels like
if I
just
didn't
left, and you've already been forgotten.
I just feel like maybe I should be quiet for a while.
Oh, this is good content, folks. Welcome back to the MSI for just now joining us. We've got Cyclone, and we've got Hype Unit here. Cyclone takes the first game. Second one, we're going to Ice Mines. Talents are on your screen. The items are on your screen now. 4 cots for Cyclone. Not a wrecker in sight. They're not worried about Tay's shield. It's me and Rain Day on the cast for clarification. Dougie LeBlanc on the can.
And if Dave wants to come in and cast some Ice Mines, I mean, feel free. I can. I'll swap out just for this map.
It's in the cards.
No, I mean, listen, I'll take the first run, but if we have to cast it again, then yeah, we're going to switch up. Gore was right on that prediction there. Welshmania doing really well so far. It's in the namesake, in the gameplay. And now CycloneGG just trying to hold on to what they've got. Sometimes start to play a little different now that you're in the lead, especially as an underdog, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Westside getting some good heals and uses a Slither just to escape for a moment. Atlas there using Stasis Field, which I have just always been changing names on because Temporal Divide is often what I think of when I think of that shield, but Stasis Field is the name of the game, and Tay just holding down this right side. Pretty much a stalemate thus far.
Yeah, Tay's done a really good job bullying out the enemy high ground, but Hype Unit hasn't been able to do a whole lot with it, and the first blood finally falls at almost 2 minutes into this fight. Welshmania gets it done. Grenade across the way.
That was good.
And Evil Mojo will find a response kill, but it's Welshmania drops the hammer. Yet another big explosive kill, quadra kill for Welsh. He's dropped 2 on Hype Unit now today.
The face, the eyes, the debonair,
He's not even phased.
slick back hair. Welshmania just don't care. It's a quadra kill in the air. My goodness gracious, this man is on fire, and he does not want it to stop. The Hype Unit have been out-hyped thus far, and I need them to hype back. Otherwise, they are not living up to the namesake here. Cyclone are on a tear.
Wow, that's one incredible way to get this one kicked off, despite how impactful this con was, zoning out the victor. Welshmania digs his heels in, gets back in the driver's seat. There's a really good Evil Mojo as well. The first ultimates, I have to say, that's the first time I've seen Hype Unit, or any team for that matter, use their ultimates first and still lose that fight. It's the quick response from the victor. Huge barrage damage, but Kresnik highlighted on the desk. This mid-fight in Ice Mines is so compact, so close together. No, Victor is not technically a blaster, but he surely can punish a nice AoE stack with his ultimate.
But it was so effective to me, the way that he threw that. I mean, the way he target swapped, he's been so efficient. That grenade went in, really forced away the Tyra, and it really allowed for him to just completely, if he had not looked right away and got that first kill, things would not have snowballed the same way. The instant barrage after grenade forced Tyra into the same window so he can get 2 for 1 on that. It was just such beautiful coordination from him. And it was just a matter of a guy locked in the zone, and I love to see it. Cyclone again up over Hype Unit, who have, has this truly been yet to capture a point in this set?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Wow.
Hype Unit unable to get it going on the offense on Ice Mines or Split Stone Quarry. Remember, these are best of 5, so things going well for Cyclone here in this game as well would put them on set point. We would have our first console team move on above one of the PC minor league squads. Exile will lock Inara down for a little while. Victor's rifle tries to get something done. But unfortunately can't take down the Stone Warden that quickly. 1 minute on the clock. Evil Mojo obliterates poor Makoa, and honestly, that's okay because they overlap Seismic Crash, completely overkill there. 2 ultimates wasted really just for the 1 kill.
I don't know if I like the Tempest. It was an attempt. It was a Tempest. There you go. The puns are flowing today. We must be channeling the old high-res Vox energy. As
God bless him. I hope he's watching.
Yeah, God bless. I'm sure. You know, Vox has to have like 30 monitors at any given time on everything.
He's plugged in.
He's also hosting, casting, and distributing prizing for community tournaments.
While editing top 5 plays,
voicing over. He's multi-talented.
World building
on
his blog, and
eating ramen.
Grinding out Grandmasters in EU.
There you go. Can do it all, and we're proud of that. Welsh Mania as well, and the boys of Cyclone have to be proud of this. In so many different ways, he makes the jump. Beautiful. Min-max there. Just drops down, gets the damage. I mean, the way that he's playing, it's really good Victor play, and I don't often get excited about Victor, man.
Whoa, dove in there just to get the overtime reset. Nobody's quite around to move this one any further. Fanatics grabs 1 consolation kill. This console takes a seat here. Kind of the same story as Splitstone, though.
Consolation kill.
I've got my mind on Vox, right? Trying to keep it going. What would Vox do, boys? WWVD.
That's a good one. Welsh Mania locked and loaded. He has had the play of the day. I wish we could have the replay on this one. This is what I love about it. He finds the target priority. He's dealing with 3 people right here.
This is where I'd bust out the circle tool. Grenades explode in circles.
Poison.
He's
Barrage.
shooting in a straight line.
2.
But look at that. Big circles. Not fire, but barrage, missiles, explosions, akin to fire. Things you don't want to stand in.
No.
And this has been your telestrated breakdown.
That's video game 102. We've already had 101. Fire's bad, but now explosions and bombs.
Things that are synonymous with fire.
Also bad.
If you can believe it.
This is why Nick is such an elite gamer, and it is extremely hard to stay with him in any game.
I've mastered these principles.
Big Jamer is not just a name. It is a lifestyle. 27% counting here. Hype unit finally in control.
They lost that Makoto. It looks like overpower.
Yep, early on. So that means they're going to be in a really good spot. But they've got the Tempest. This is some of the best. This is like the best. He's got to use it for the health. No. He can't get them all. He waits just a second too late. Or maybe you just got to give credit to where credit's due. Poison finishes off the crucial target just fast enough. And a Dread Serpent, I don't think it's going to do much here. They've already lost so many members.
Yeah, the hot double fear is just the cherry on top. I mean, not only do they get that early kill onto Welsh, shutting down the majority of the lethality of this composition, but then the Narwhal literally stonewalls the take-back attempt. Grok's floating above it like, come on, guys. This is so embarrassing.
Come on. I mean, they just really wanted to wait to get some stabilization. They wanted to wait, but the time never passed. That's great pressure. That's great zoning. And that's the stuff that Pip brings. So in the same vein, it was 2 off-healers kind of doing their thing. One just got it done a little faster, and the damage was too much to deal with. The second chance there from Atlas puts him on the top yet again. Stigma trying to plow away at anybody that is available, any hit points he could find, but not quite enough as he goes down thanks to Welsh.
A lot of stuff being used in this fight, but Cyclone just barely able to eke out the advantage. Tactics throws down the stasis field, manages to land the deja vu, but confuses himself a little bit. Still gets the kill at the end of the day. Westside puts up 2. His defense will hold. This payload will be skunked and start to roll backwards with no offensive members around to contest.
Good idea. That's one of the reasons Deja Vu is so strong on maps, so heavily corridored like Ice Mines. You can play around these corners, and usual safe hiding is not safe anymore. Fanatics might have had a little bit in the loadout that added some few seconds back on the second chance, on the setback. And you'll most likely see that, actually, no, he's got it at the exact thing. So truly just must have been a very fast waitlist away from the Pip that he just misjudged. And the payload will move.
Victor huff and puff his way back to a more safe area. Looks like he's headed into spawn to head up to that little balcony just to get a lot of free firing done. It's the natural defensive position for Victor. doesn't actually go all the way in. I'd be surprised. He pays the iron price for it. Poison on point with these pip shots.
And that's why it's so hard to actually use a setback against him, because he would go all the way back up to the top in just about a half a second there if you tried to hit him with it. It would be very hard to judge unless you're tracking him the entire fight. So far, though, the only tracking being done is Stigma and his hit scan tracking on every single member of CycloneGG. Hype unit with a push. It's going to be 3-1 here after a defense and then a successful capture and push. Cyclone a little troubled now.
You know, if it weren't, I might not even bring this up if it not were for Chronix on this map, on Victor, fighting from this little spawn door right here. That spawn door.
Yeah.
Victor can literally just sit there. He doesn't need to be healed anymore, so your healer can focus on everyone else. Anytime you take damage, you just dip back in and you come back out. And the reason I bring it up is because I felt like Welsh was heading there, and then when we actually did round that corner, he was still just sitting on the ground. He was picked off. And because of that, there was nobody really to fight off Hype Unit. I mean, look at this composition. Makoa, Damba, Atlas, and Grok are not going to be able to do enough damage in a 4v5 scenario to bring that one back. You lose any of those other characters, and Victor might be able to do enough damage to bring that one back. But he is a very, very key piece of this puzzle, as you can see. When he's not around, not a lot of good things happen for Cyclone.
And you can also see from Stigma's perspective, he's nice and cozy. There's really not much to worry about here. He sees everyone except the Victor. And that's a good Dread Serpent, because it's going to get Tay off the board. And one of the most important parts is now they can zone him. He may not ever get to contest that point again, even though his overpower is about to come up. One of the reasons they won the last point fight. So things looking real good off the start for Cyclone.
I really like Thanatic's positioning there. He sort of runs and breaks away from the pack just to make sure that he's allowed to sit on this Tyra and this Ying, so they're not super comfortable. That grenade would have gotten
Really
the
nice.
kill. Slopadopoulos didn't grab it already. Hype unit up 3-1 though. Cyclone with comeback mechanic easily able to grab this payload.
And one of the the difference is just being able to capitalize on what went well for them, and it's the overpower. That's how they won the last round so efficiently. That's how they're going to maybe stabilize here on the Slopadopoulos, but they got rid of Tay early, and that was just crucial. And I love the Dread Serpent decision on the side of Cyclone to be able to just isolate that target, finish Tay off. Shows you how important this con is to this composition on Ice Mines.
Forcing themselves up and around this corner, trying to make a defensive stand. Once you lose control, really, of this corner, and you start to roll away from where the point fight happens, that's when things start to slide on Ice Mines, and you really, really can't put your foot down and say, we're going to look to defend from here. It's a Tempest versus an Evil Mojo. Both live and then simultaneously die. One still could go either way.
But you can see how valuable it is to have somebody left over in the fight. That's a DPS. It's Welsh with another triple kill. Thanatix gets the fourth this time around, but they just had enough damage. It was 2 to 3 members, but it was a front line, it was a support, and it was a basically half health DPS that died very quickly. So really, really important to keep Welsh alive. Really, really important to try to finish off Stigma and Poison as soon as they can.
You can lose that Grok like they just did. He brings a little bit of healing, a little bit of utility, a little bit of damage, but not a critical part of any of the three. He's a complement. He makes everything you do a little bit more dangerous, a little bit better at some of the things you look to bring. It's that Victor that's a critical part. He makes this composition lethal, and as long as Welsh is on the field, you can already see he's put together 2 or 3 of the highlight plays in this set thus far. He needs to be in the conversation at all times. You have to protect this man.
A lot of respect here given. There's a battle shout to get him out of the immediate trouble, and a really good Dread Serpent again. Resilience starting to pay dividends, but you can't resilience that half a second, and that means that you're going to be vulnerable for a little bit of time, and it's enough. And it opens up the door for Welsh, who's on a 14 streak. Make it 15. This payload not even keeping up with the amount of devastating damage on the table right now for Cyclone.
Another grenade goes out. A nice setback, almost gets the kill outright. No more ultimates are needed for Cyclone. That is a highly, highly efficient offense there. They literally only spend a Dread Serpent and get it done through base kits outside of that.
I mean, great stuff. I'm not just talking about the hydration. Really good stuff because you're taking care of yourself. I appreciate that.
That's the beanie effect.
It's the beanie effect. Who would have thought beanies in the summertime would be the new thing, but that's all we're talking about today.
That's the wave, and that's the only ultimate, like we said, that was needed there. They do such a good job. Look at how aggressive they're getting. When it's time to go, these guys are going. They're not dragging their feet. They are making sure to push advantages when they see them. They're respecting their opponents, but not fearing them.
They've nearly quadrad at least 3 to 4 times 4 times, because that was Slop almost on the Quadra, and we've seen essentially 2 to 3 on the side of Welsh. 17 streak for him, and a master riding now with the side of Thanatix. They need to make sure this overpower doesn't happen for Tay, and Tay needs to make sure he gets this overpower quickly. Tempest is going to immune the chickens, at least give them some more speed. He's trying to dodge, duck, dive, and roll. He's going to make it. Oh, and he goes down. William through 5-5 gets the finishing blow, and that is going to force them back, and they still have the overpower on the side of Hype Unit. That's devastating for Cyclone.
Well, it's 39% on the objective initially, still with overpower and seismic crash to zone. I'm a little worried for Cyclone, I'll be completely honest. This is going to be very tough to come back from just because of how Ice Mines is. Ancient Rage, he's going to give it all he's got, but I don't even know if Makoa makes it there.
I think if you get a kill, maybe. Seismic Crash used now. Can he get there? He can. He will touch, and now he's got a big heal as well. That's going to buy them a little bit of time, and Welsh Mania finds Stigma. What can he do? They've got to go big. They're low. This is possible, Nick, but they got to get Welsh out of the situation. Tay with a huge pickup. It's West Side now, and it's going to be up to Slop. He's the main DPS in this moment.
There it is. Nice stun on Khan to get this one started, but Tay is just coming through and ripping people apart.
Oh, he missed!
Misses overpower, but enough Ying sustain.
Second chance.
I think the base kit of Khan is just enough. Dread Serpent Resilience shrugs it off.
Welsh is going to get back. This is too much time, but they're chickens. Oh, no, just like that. Time runs out. The last drop of sand falls, and it just doesn't look like it's going Cyclone's way. They've done wound Hype Unit up, and that will be the game that ties it 2-2. Excuse me, 1-1, 2 games down. Beanie walking back with a little bit more of a casual stroll this time. And we've got ourselves a set.
That's a damn good attempt, though, I think, from Hype Unit. Or from Cyclone, excuse me.
True.
That Evil Mojo just so much. I think that landed onto 3, if not 4, if not 5 of the people, except for that Grok. He was trying to keep everybody together with the Tempest, but it's not a ton of healing, especially in the late game with Cauterize Online.
I have a really bad pun I'm not going to say, and so instead of doing
would Vox say it?
Vox would maybe not even say this one, so I'm going to let it go. We'll send it out into the wind somehow, and we'll send it back to the desk and see if Gore and the rest of the boys on there, I think it's Kresnik with him, can decipher what I was going to mention.
It's me, the rest of the boys.
The rest of the boys.
The rest of the boys.
I have no clue where he was going with
Neither do I. I actually would have picked it up had I gotten what he was saying, but I missed it.
Either way, I think the biggest thing is if that last point fight, there's no Ying ult, there's no Pip ult, or if you just come in with one, not the other. Well, let's say if you come in with only Ying ult and not Evil Mojo, like if you take Evil Mojo out of the equation, I think Cyclone can win that. Like I think they come through and absolutely take themselves 3-3. So like it's a loss, but I still think it's so close.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about how I don't want Cyclone to kind of come in over like excited from having the win and then like make a mistake. I don't think they made a huge mistake. I think Hype Unit just played better on that last mid fight. I think they had the resources. I think they used them well. And I think Cyclone actually had a fantastic like counter. They got the touch with the Makoa. They had fantastic delay. They got everybody low. They were starting to get the finishes, but just they couldn't get through the Illusory Rift and the Evil Mojo.
And that's just so big. Like it's one thing, like we mention Illusory Rift all the time, but I mean just free healing, global for your team. No downside, truly, on the side of Ying. And it was so close. I think Victor may be living a little longer there. Again, a lot of factors that could have helped out Cyclone, but at the end of the day, Hype Unit come through. They take it in a 4-3 overall. It was very narrow, I would even argue. And it was moments like this as well. Having used the Ancient Rage to get back to the objective, but because he had to use it so early, no one was behind him. No one was able to keep up. There's even a moment here where Overpower doesn't connect, but follow up with a 3-man, 2-man Evil Mojo, and it's the front lines. Easy peasy.
Yeah, just an absolute slaughter. I mean, that's what Evil Mojo is really meant to do. It's meant to eliminate front lines, take them out of the game, and having it work in a crazy 3-3 situation against both of the best tanks in the game, that is one of the biggest fight flippers I've seen, at least on Ice Mines, in a long time.
And I just leave it up to Poison, keeping himself calm, collected during it. Again, a lot of pressure on, I would say, during that one. Now that it's 1-1, both teams can kind of shrug it off, right? You can be like, cool, whatever. It's just going to be best of 3 now. We're just going to chill. We can win 2 more. That's all we have to do. A little less pressure, I think. Well, maybe a little more pressure on to Cyclone. A little less pressure, I think, there for Hype Unit. But going into it, we've seen Split Zone with Quarry. We've seen Ice Mines. Like, so far, bigger maps, longer maps overall, different kind of point fights, but do you think this means we're in for like Frozen Guard? We're in for like Timber Mill, or do you think this is where we kind of return to norm?
I mean, Frozen Guard isn't really too weird of a map. I wouldn't be shocked to see it come out. I mean, I'm expecting more of the normal maps,
More
I
than
think, from
normal.
this point forward. Like, we'll
I was
probably see
hoping for some spice.
a Serpent, a Stone would be my guess. I mean, I personally don't know Cyclone's map pool that well.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled out something weird.
Well, I'd argue, because I think I've always had 5 maps I call the standards. Serpent Beach, Frog Isle, Bright Marsh, and of course Jaguar Falls. The only one that would still be available, I'm blanking on, Stone Keep, is still out there.
Oh,
But they're
Stone
going to go to
Keep,
Frozen
actually.
Guard, which, hey, call us prophets. Call us what you will. We're going to be able to go here. This is another map that I think is very good for similar reasons as Iceman, similar reasons as Splitstone Quarry. For, I don't even argue, the console teams. You can play a few more flanks here than you would normally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of hard. You can play the flatter flanks on this map, but it's so open that it's hard for them to get in sometimes, or hard for them to at least play safe.
Yeah.
If the other team is watching out for it, you can play like, I think the biggest thing about this map is that the sustainy compositions are a little worse because it's hard to find that core you can regroup to because it's so easy to be surrounded. I think if they cut across the point, you can get kind of collapsed on one side pretty easily. There's a lot of room to disengage to because that upper high ground side that the sustained comps usually sit on is so far back. But you can lose the point if you get pushed far enough back on that side if you're playing that sustained comp. You can lose line of sight from your healer to your point tank on the point, and that's a way a fight can just fall out of your hands.
Well, I'll say I'm really, I guess, digging the first ban Torvald. It's been 3 games in a row here for Hype Unit, and all 3 games it has been Torvald. I actually really like this EV ban as well from Cyclone because it's double-edged, right? Not only is EV a little more difficult to track down if you're playing with a console, or with a controller, I should say, just because of the lack, I want to say, of the ability to flick around the same way.
Unless
that
you
they
use
do on a
gyro
mouse.
and break
Unless
your
you
wrists.
use- and break your wrist.
I mean,
also,
I've moonwalked on console with Nando. That hurts.
It hurts, but you can do it. But I'd also say it's double-edged because it kind of takes it away from Poison, which I would argue is one of his, not staples, it's not someone that he always goes to, but is definitely proven to be very strong for them in the past.
It's in his pool, absolutely. Banning Kinessa, actually, Cyclone has clearly watched a Stigma game or 2. Although he likes it a little bit more on some of the smaller maps, but he can pull it out basically anywhere.
It still baffles me. I've seen 2 players successfully pull out Kinessa on Bright Marsh. Competitively. I won't mention my casual games where it happens all the time, but competitively it comes out every now and then. And that is something to be aware of. Strix is another one on this map. Like, snipers will and can be run on this map. The question is how well they perform. Sometimes we see them go insane. I know, like we've seen in IP specifically last time, they were running Strix on this map.
Yeah, Strix and
I don't
Torv, that interesting
think
comp.
we're going to see it, but we'll probably see something along the lines of like Victor to kind of fill in the same role.
Maybe. I mean, you can still play the Strix on this map, especially if you have the Ashe. I thought they were going to first pick Ashe since Kinessa was banned, because now if Cyclone picks Strix, the Strix can't really get away from the Ashe. But they went with the Khan instead. Safer, I think. You can get overpowers from across the map. Probably why they picked Khan over Makoa, considering Makoa's hook is a little bit limited. You can actually make enough distance between you and Makoa on this map to limit his effectiveness. And usually saying limit Makoa's effectiveness, it does not come up too often.
That's, I think, the hardest thing to do is limit Makoa's effectiveness. Although it is done very, very briefly and occasionally by certain teams, but it has happened in the past. Again, a lot of that, and this is actually something to ask you because your team did run Sky, so I can ask you personally. On paper, Makoa seems pretty, not easy to handle, but handleable. He's someone that you could potentially collapse in on. Why doesn't it ever work? Why does it not translate into game?
One thing I see about Makoa is when you let the enemy team have Makoa, you're basically flipping a coin. You're saying, is this off-tank going to have a fantastic game today, right? Or can we, put enough pressure where he doesn't? But with Makoa, the thing is, if the off-tank's having a great day, he's just going to do well. Like, there's no stopping it with Makoa most of the time, honestly. So when my team has previously done it, we've either had the off-tank not having a great day and we've been able to counter it, or you play against Phoenix. Phoenix does Phoenix things, and he's still the best off-tank in the world, and you can't stop it,
Ziggs, that was
Strix
We're
and
gonna come
Cassie.
through. Yeah, Strix. It was actually in this very interesting position coming into this, just because there were, I think, last week of the PPL, some things that were a little fishy with Strix. Those have been completely cleared up here for this playthrough. And so Strix going to be able to come in and going to be smooth, and also, well, going to give at least a little bit of a range advantage. It's one of those things on Frozen Guard, like, you have to argue he's a sniper, you have a technical range advantage, but you're really picking him for the 1800 damage. Like, you're picking him for the I'm going to constantly plug you with headshots, being able to hit this. Inara, Atlas are going to hurt. Any carries you pick up, they're going to feel it.
Yeah, so far this is actually a mirror of the draft on Splitstone, I believe. I mean, other than the Makoa, no one picking Makoa yet with him being open. It's pretty similar. Ooh, triple tank from Cyclone. This is actually going to be really strong into the Strix. The Cassie's going to be a little bit of a wrench in the works, but just having that much just health walking across the point. You know, you can burst for 1200, but 3 sped by Damba tanks walking across the entirety of Frozen Guard, Makoa maybe using Surf 5 across a lot of distance, that's going to be hard to deal with.
Do you do it? Do you go Genos Sky?
Do you go Genos Sky?
You get the triple DPS and technically another counter to a triple frontline.
I mean, the safe pick is Barrack because he still does damage, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Barrack still does a lot of damage. That's the safe pick.
Yeah, but that's safe, Kresnik. We aren't living our lives safe.
You know what? Give me Wormjet Drogos on like the lowest skybox in the world. That's what I wanted to see, but we have Barrack instead. I wanted to see a grounded Drogos, but we were given Barrack instead, which was a very safe pick, I think. Again, he still does good poke damage. It's just that setback is going to be massive.
Yeah, and it's going to hurt a lot. Like you said, Cassie probably going to be able to fare her own, although with a hook on the other side might not do too well. And then Strix. Actually, I would argue Strix might have some chances to get plugged out as well. Not only is his damage going to kind of be negligible, but Atlas is going to hit him just as hard pretty much back for every single shot.
Yeah.
So it's coming through. They've got their double DPS. They get Khan Barrack. Cyclone go the triple frontline route on Frozen Guard. How are you feeling about either side?
Honestly, I give the advantage to Cyclone here. I think triple tank on this map is very underrated, and I think it's very strong. And with the tanks they have, I mean, how can you argue against Inara, Atlas, Makoa?
Yeah, that's honestly, I was trying to think of a good way to do it. But
yeah, it's going to be really hard. I mean, we've seen how influential Atlas has been. I mean, Cyclone's gotten him every game, double checking. Yes, Cyclone got him every single game. So, you know, just the influence in the fight, bring someone back in, get yourself out. Undestroyable shield, 50% speed for your entire team. It's going to be a lot to deal with. I
mean, the conversation for the first 2 games was very much which frontline pair would be stronger. Well, they get all 3 that they want on this side. Cyclone are ready to be able to take it down to Frozen Guard, and this time we have Evan and Nick standing by for it.
This time, you're going to get it.
I get my first shout out in the history of Paladins throws, and I appreciate it. This is my big moment. And I'm going to seize it. I'm going to seize it, and I'm going to seize it. There's my positive affirmations. I've said them all, and now it's time to say things that you care about.
Don't sneeze it.
I won't sneeze it. Oh, man. So imagine I sneezed out my opportunity just like that. Ugh. Couldn't live with myself. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do it.
That's how the Slim Shady song went, right?
You better snooze yourself. I was just about hitting snooze multiple times. Oh, man. That would be just...
That's the Weird Al parody.
Exactly. 15% here for Cyclone, but that's not quite the whole story. They've had a dramatically strong start here for a console team. And I say that because both console teams have been 3-0'd at the start of today's first MSI gameplay. And I think this is Cyclone really showing up for this region, showing up in this matchup specifically, and they've got Atlas again on the triple tank.
Poison slowly but surely chipping his way through all of these rather large HP bars. Westside's trying to keep himself safe from the ADS of Strix. Nice hook lands there. This could be first blood. Battle Shout, Tay backing up, trying to get out. He's out for the time being, and still nobody falls.
Already, it's been 1:46, but the first blood just now unfolds onto Tay. They're going to answer back onto Slop. That's 1 for 1, both front lines on the aggressive side of things, but it's Cyclone who just stood on the point longer. And it's really been interesting to see how much of an impact Vivian and Victor have made for Welsh Mania, and even, for that matter, for Prosper Logic, who was so far ahead in the damage charts when we checked in that Brightmarsh game. It was some of the most astounding numbers I had seen. 80,000 damage ahead in 10 minutes.
Tyra and Vivian definitely making their mark in the competitive scene. Kind of for the first time. Vivian through no real changes, maybe just for the first time really being explored in depth. Tyra received a lot of changes to the hunting party over her lifespan, and a little bit of life still added at the base kit. She's really seen a lot of play as a result of hunting party, though. The ability to make viable all of the damage of your front line to a real threat, as you're seeing right there. Lining up a headshot with Atlas just feels so good.
Oh, and they're going to get a nice setback there to almost guarantee William going down. And he is not going to have a chance to fight back until he respawns in a few seconds. But this is Frozen Guard, and this is dangerous, especially with the shield coming up as well. They're going to have a chance maybe to chase if they want to. The stasis field not quite utilized. for the movement speed only, but very often can be turned into an aggressive tool, as it does provide that 50% with most players' loadouts running that card.
Cyclone's composition might struggle here. Ooh, nearly sidestepping that time and space. But as they break out under this overpass into a more open lines of sight, longer ranges, this triple frontline composition might start to struggle. But if they can transition the momentum from that pick into an offense, then I don't even think that conversation needs to happen.
Nick, that was a little rush, man. The dome shield at about 50 seconds, instant death. It seemed like that was maybe a last-minute attempt at William to go off script, maybe make a call that he thought was best in the situation.
Ooh.
Big shot there. That was huge to be able to really help put down Stigma, and that battle goes the way of Cyclone. They're about to push this in.
Who says console can't flick? That was clean from Thanatix. His Atlas has been great so far this set. In game number 3, Welsh has to back off, but he has to get back in there. He is such a big part of the damage. This composition and all compositions before it, Welsh Mania has been so much of the bite behind all this bark.
And that's huge as well that we see Poison step up. But Welsh and Slop, they find a few kills. They focus so much on Thanatix that there was no one there to take down Welsh, the 2 front lines. And of course, Westside on the heel spot. Welsh, stone cold yet again. Stone Cold Steve Welshman.
Oh, man. I'm thinking about this composition. Does it fall off as hard as what Elevate were doing earlier on?
I don't think so.
Not really, right? Because, I mean, you
so
still have a ton of damage reduction and healing amp from Minar. That's stuff that falls off only with regards to healing amp. But everything else, you know, Makoa doesn't really rely too heavily on his shielding to be effective. Atlas is uncounterable in terms of his shielding. You need so many different things even in that regard. You would need Cauterize for Inara. You would need Wrecker for that Makoa. You would need Resilience to negate what Atlas brings to the table. It just feels like there's almost too much to buy for with this Cyclone composition.
And it really does feel like there's just too many threats as well, because if they let any one of these front lines, Makoa, Atlas, have their way, or they let Welsh have their way, it's a done deal. These champions snowball better than almost anyone else. That's a really strong barricade, and that wall ends up hurting Welsh Mania's line of sight to the backside and maybe finish off the Genos, who is now rotating onto his backside to be able to be near his team, but it's 2 down very quickly thanks to Welsh. Poison, Tay, William, they respond right back, and Poison's going to find a double. That's going to help Hype Unit stay in control, at least for now.
Poison's positioning was great there. He just kind of stayed on Welsh's mind. He never really full committed to that fight until he saw Welsh full commit to that fight. Then he moved in, got the kill on the blindsided Vivian, and that was basically that. There is comeback mechanic. There is front lines very, very close to contesting this, and it looks like they will get their touch.
Oh no, he couldn't get Ancient Rage off. Too much burst. That is going to burst the bubble of this retake attempt. They've got to buy time now, but Poison is making sure that time is cut short. Thanatix has to make a big play. He's trying to get over up top. That Void Grip actually helps him get a little bit of damage. Battle Shout buys time as well. William on the point, and I don't know how long they can last. Smutney falls down, and it's going to be Hype Unit who grabbed this one. Albeit, there was a chance for Cyclone to maybe retake, but the Ancient Rage never got off.
Yeah, that would have needed to happen for sure. They had a lot of other stuff to work with as well. You're looking at almost the Dread Serpent ready. The Sentinels were ready to go. But I want to bring it back to that moment that the Inara wall goes up. Playing Vivian around the Exile is really, really helpful, because the way Opportunity and Chaos works, you just have to hold down right trigger for 2 seconds, then you get all that bonus damage. Exile is the perfect thing to set you up there. You're just basically firing, waiting for that target to come out of that banished crowd control. But the wall does go up from Inara. I'm wondering how that fight would have looked if Inara's wall didn't happen there. You saw Vivian allowed to just chew through that barrack in a matter of seconds.
That is true. It just does feel like there was maybe a little bit of execution and also just a little bit of luck on the side of Hype Unit and Cyclone that really helped tilt this back in their favor. Comeback mechanic as well has to be mentioned, and that was something you talked about, just giving them that little bit of pressure on the objective.
I'm wondering if she was trying to wall that barrack in with them.
Probably.
Really, I honestly can't remember what her HP was at because I wasn't looking at her. But that feels to me like what you would have been going for in that situation.
An aggressive wall.
But if it is that wall and I don't get it, then I drop it immediately.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To re-allow that line of sight to happen. I don't know. Little things, spilt milk, splitting hairs, all that, but that's what you got to do with this level of play.
Well, the Exile, too, really does, put him in an awkward position. He's right on the point, and you don't have a lot of follow-up. And usually that exile scales off of how many members can follow up at a time. So if you have really concerted effort, a lot of focus, I think Cyclone are really doing something special here. They realize that if they were to take a set here and really finish this game, it would be a big deal. So I can imagine sometimes they're getting excited. Maybe it's not cool, calm, collected target prioritization as they would need, but that's got to clean up here if they're actually going to win this game. Done a good job defending, though.
They got a good thing going for them here as well with that 2-0 start. A defense here does still mean a point for them. They will still go to that 3-1 mark and have the opportunity to close this game in the next round. The way this fight is falling apart at the moment, it looks like it's going to be easier said than done. Smutny falls. Hype Unit resume their offense. Strix is dead in the final 5 seconds here. This one is going to be questionable with that setback on the Barrack. Hopefully you get that kill. They're not going to get that kill.
My goodness.
Barrack just walks away.
My goodness gracious. So many little things here having an impact, and now you start to realize these teams playing at such an even level where these little things do make big differences, and it's not just going to be a guaranteed 4-0, 4-2, some variation of the sort. If you're trying to make plays, that will send them into the next round and send one team home. Overtime now starting off. It's Slopodopoulos. Big kill onto him. Dread Serpent just to delay. Thanatix will end up taking a big kill, and now Westside trying to keep his teammates alive. And it's not enough to keep Thanatix healthy, but it is enough to at least delay and buy them one more point on the defense, and now 1 point away from taking game number 3.
4 members of the offense there, but they just can't get a toe on the objective. Poison is definitely ripping people apart.
Boom.
He was the man that landed that killing blow onto Makoa just before the Ancient Rage could get off. And this is the angle he was playing on Welsh Mania the majority of the round. That just, like I said, stayed on Vivian's mind. Never full committed to that fight because it's a tough toe-to-toe battle to win. But he made sure she was always thinking about her.
He killed everyone. He literally killed everyone in that fight. So, you know, it's a tough task because Hype Unit are down 1-3. And you have to expect if Poison isn't on a 15 streak, their chances go from slim to none at this point, because I don't see any other way they would have won that point fight had he not done all of that. Scout comes through and a seismic crash through time and space to try and buy some time, and it will do just that, but it won't find any kills on either side. The wall actually a negative there for the Inara, and Poison cleans her up.
That's just big game right there, dealing with the front line. Makoa trying to walk down, decide who he even wants to go for. Khan throws up the shield. Khan is one of the best people to absorb Ancient Rage in the business. He gets the whole thing done. Vivian comes in the last second to help grab the kill, and Cyclone, despite all of that, might still win this game.
And the reason is Welsh rotated, and all of that pressure that Poison had on Welsh before, that he had on a Westside before, he's got none of it now. Nick, I'm not sure they can touch. Smutny trying to get onto the point here just to block it off. That's it. Cyclone win just like that. My goodness gracious.
What a weird fight. That's just, I don't know. That just didn't feel...
Could you call it a fight?
That didn't feel like a fight. There were so many things not used from Hype Unit, and Cyclone honestly felt like they were on the back foot. They used their stuff, and that just goes to show how important it is that you just use your ultimates. I mean, that was not the best Ancient Rage I've seen. Inara died almost instantaneously. I don't know how Cyclone won that fight. That's where I'll leave it.
What's interesting is that in that Ancient Rage approach, it was... I want to give credit to it. You know, I think it was Smutny on the Makoa. Who was playing the Makoa? Either way, he was able to really force out Poison to choose to go to the backside and try to round out through the corridors. And that just bought enough time to really isolate the Khan. And I think because the Welsh Mania rotation happened at that singular moment, they got 2 real quick, and they were able to capitalize after they thought they might have caught and isolated Makoa, who had used his big ultimate. It's one of those things where, yeah, things didn't feel like they should have ended that slowly, but they did. So let's send it to the desk. I want to hear Gore and Kresnik's thoughts on kind of an uneventful end to game number 3.
It was definitely a weird capstone, but it kind of felt, and this actually is something me and you were talking about just the round before. Once it became 3-1, it kind of felt like it was more in Cyclone's wheelhouse just because of the way that 3-1 occurred. They were losing that fight.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Hype Unit could have capped that, man. The 2-1, I think that's what did it. They weren't ready. They were like, we're going to get 2-2. We can get an even mid-fight moving forward from this. But then they just, big old letter number, you know? They walked off the point. it ended when they were up 5-3, and I think they were just probably frustrated about that going into that last fight.
It was the opposite of Navi's strategy. See, Navi's strategy is to almost always focus the objective. They decided at that moment to not focus any objective. They did get a couple kills. It was a 3v5, and they didn't push it in. Then it becomes a 3-1 in favor of Cyclone, and then, as well, both Evan and Nick said, it was kind of a lackluster. Like, it seemed like it was going to be this huge monumentous collision, and then just two people were dead.
I mean, it was just Cyclone with their feet to the throat, you know? They started with an Inara ult immediately. I even said, like, that ult is huge as it was going in, and then it wasn't, and then they just walked in, you know? Hype Unit just couldn't stop them, and they just added this foot to the gas and triple tank. That's what you have to do on this composition against a double backline.
I mean, they played it really well. They were able to do a ton, and you can look at it. Damage numbers are very heavily in favor of Hype Unit, because, well, admittedly, there's higher health bars to deal more damage to. Slash lines, actually Poison blew things out of the water, 11-2 and 11, but it didn't match up with the 11-5-13, the 7-7, the 4-8, like whatever, however you want to slice it. All point control was in favor of Cyclone, and especially so at the very end there. I think at this point, I saw a ton of people in chat excited for it, and I think everybody should be excited. Console has now taken 2 maps, and you get this. Like, this is such a good flank to being able to run down. I don't even want to call it a flank. They're just running them down. There's no flank about it. They're just making sure they've got them on lock.
Yeah, after the seismic crash to kind of stun the con out and not let him deny them with some poke pressure, they just walked straight in. I mean, you saw this started from Welshmania being in the mines, just laying on the damage, putting on the pressure. And I want to actually say as an aside, this is such a good meta for the console teams, I think, coming into this.
Yeah, that's...
Of all the metas for the cross-play bracket, I mean... The Tyra Vivian Victor meta? Like, what else could you possibly want?
The stars aligned for them. Unfortunately, 2 have already fallen. Cyclone is here to be the unsung hero and climb their way to the top. If Cyclone, like, a lot of people, like, you could wager this first day, console, PC, who's going to win? PML, PCL, anybody could move forward. A lot of people have had only PML teams going forward into the full bracket with all the PPL teams.
Oh, clearly you didn't look at the console corner prediction
on
Twitter.
Right. Good point. But... if you look at where they are right now, like, I feel like Cyclone, if you win this one, like, Penta is a great team. Do not get me wrong. They're playing next, going up against Nemesis. Penta don't have Ova. Like, if you're looking at positions for 2 console teams to potentially start taking some wins, Nemesis is in a good position because Penta have a sub. Cyclone is in a great position because they're up 1 game right now. They're only 1 away from potentially sealing the deal here. So what do Hype Unit need to do to bring it back?
It's hard to say. They need to be ready for these drafts because they did not look ready for that triple tank. I think they also need to deny the Atlas. I think it's getting a lot. 3 maps in a row with Atlas. Atlas wins games. I hope you would have said it if I did.
Yes.
Because Atlas just wins games. And then you're getting Atlas and Makoa and the best point tank for that situation.
Seems maybe a little lopsided here as things come through. Cyclone are once again going to be second pick this time around. And we are going to Stone Keep. So this is going to be, again, one of the more, I'm going to call it a tame map. I think overall very, very standardized.
It's one of the basics, I think. I would put it in that tier.
Yeah, like if you don't know this, you don't belong in competitive play kind of maps is how I would word it. And this is the biggest thing. What bans are going to come through? Torvald has been first for Hype Unit every single time. They've banned Leon, they've banned Talus, they've banned Tyra. None of those have really been as prominent, I would say. This time they go for the Tyra again.
Eevee still banned for Cyclone too.
So do you first pick Atlas here?
I think they do. And then the other team gets Makoa and Nara, and that's... You can take someone with percent health damage. You can take the Sky later in the draft, maybe. I mean, with the Tyra gone, that's one of Sky's biggest counters gone. Drogo's also out of the ballpark too. Maybe Cyclone's looking to do another Death Ball strategy. Well, a strategy taken from Elevate.
They're hovering Makoa.
If Hype Unit don't I think their stubbornness on this draft might end up being their downfall on this set, because I really think they're giving Cyclone a lot of things that they want, and they need to be more flexible here. I'm really just gonna come out and say it. I really think they do.
I mean, this is one of those moments, and this is actually something. This is a great illustration of things we've said in the PPL for broadcasts, where it's just sometimes you don't ban, like, if you just don't ban the front lines, you get power picks. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you want, you go Atlas Khan, you can go Inara Khan. Like, if you ban a Barrack, like, you can play with those bans, potentially hurt someone that's not the front lines to help out your front lines. Yes, they get Makoa, but is the question, or I think the question is going to be very heavily, is it going to matter? First game, they had Makoa too. Didn't make much of a difference for Hype Unit there. And, well, I guess also second game, Cyclone got Makoa, and it didn't make much of a difference for them there. So there's a lot of flexibility with this guy. And I would argue both of these teams seem to know at least a little bit of how to handle him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting an Inara Atlas again, I think, from Cyclone. I mean,
Something
it's been working fantastic. I mean,
Gotta
Inara has the Mother's Grace to CC immune through the Makoa hooks. Hey, Atlas has the rewind to stop the aggression from that Pip coming out instead.
I'm sorry,
first.
hello?
That's interesting. Ooh, that's actually much better for Hype Unit, I think. That's
now-
so much better because they get Atlas now.
You get Atlas. Yeah, I guess you get Khan on Cyclone, but I mean, it seems like a bluff was called, and I assume a bluff is about to be called. I think Hype Unit are about to lock in an Atlas.
I would hope so. He really is very influential. He's actually really good. I think it's a Pip too because you can rewind after the Moxie. His head is huge, so those 1350s are way easier to confirm.
Oh yeah.
And he's pretty solid in this map in general. Temporal Divide, speed your whole team in. It's brutal.
I mean, there's so much that can go right. That's just the thing. Atlas, when played at this level, we have seen make huge differences. Phoenix, again, comes to mind where it's just like, okay, yeah, he's going to absolutely handle you by playing
I have
Atlas.
been on the receiving end of a Phoenix Atlas.
It's, I think some would call it not fun.
Fun would be a word that if the picture in the encyclopedia, you were like debating what it could be, the picture in the encyclopedia would not be our game against Atlas.
Yeah. It would actually just be Phoenix while he was playing Atlas in that game. Either way, they're going to go Vivian Atlas this time around. And this is a big thing. So Vivian, what is she bringing here? Why is she picked up for Stone Key?
Just constant firing. Pressure on the Inara. The Inara can't really, unless the Inara gets a lot of value out of her wall, unless her wall stays up pretty much the whole duration, she's going to put on a lot of damage. Plus, now if they want to go Khan, Vivian's very good into Khan. Vivian with Wrecker just absolutely annihilates him. His shield just goes away. And I'm assuming Khan is going to be what Cyclone go to. Maybe an Ashe, if they want to supplement, maybe have that really aggressive push. Genos would be a good combination with that too, or the Khan.
Come on.
So this feels very reminiscent of something we saw, well, again, earlier today. In fact, this set even, with Inara, Atlas, Genos, Tyra, Pip. No Tyra available, no Atlas available for Cyclone, so they do pull out the Ashe this time around. Not someone who I think we've seen be, I just want to say as big as she was. Like a lot of the PPL teams in it, specifically like NIP will love to run her, and Knights love to run her. You guys would love to run her on SSG. Not someone who's been highly contested today. It's been really between the top 4. Do you think she's going to make a big difference?
I think so. I think I'm surprised she wasn't picked as much as she was in these previous sets, because I really do think she's very influential. You can pick her over Khan and Inara on some maps.
Yeah.
Maps like, any wide map where you need to close the gap or where the ult is going to be really strong, it's very good. And they actually close it out with a Victor too. Again, a pick that's really strong in this map, but actually hasn't seen a single win yet today.
That's unfortunate.
That is
for
unfortunate.
Victor, and I think for anybody who loves Victor, which and in this case is a lot of the console teams, but I think in a lot of cases it's a lot of players. We have a lot of people who have been hinging on that. But Maeve gets locked in, coming through for against the Inara, against the Ashe, against the Pip. Do you think she's going to be able to lock down the targets that they're looking for, or is she just going to be a Victor killer?
Early game, I think it's going to be really powerful. Because like once she gets the Midnights before Resilience, it's going to be just they have no way to deal with it really quickly.
Awesome. Well, hey, we've got Evan, we've got Nick to take us through what could potentially be the last game of this set.
I love it. Now he says, I just wonder the first time when no one's paying attention, why do they always think of Dave? I just don't get it.
Dave is just always in our hearts and minds.
Maybe it's just such a name. It's like Jeff. It's like, it's David. David. I mean, come on. Dave. How can you not? Even when he says it right, I'm bringing it up. Oh, the trash bag. Whoa, Welsh. Watch out.
Dunks the keyboard in the garbage.
Oh, my God.
Get it out of my face.
Get it out of my face. And he certainly has been playing to be able to make those statements. He's laser focused. None of that jovial-natured attitude in these matchups. And it is Hype Unit who may be paying the cost. They are one game away from
I'm Team Cyclone here, baby.
Unfortunate situation.
I'm ready for it.
You're biased already?
Give me one. Give me one console team advancing
for the good of the tournament.
For the good of the PCL.
For the good of the realm.
That's right.
All right. There's really a lot to learn from this. And, I mean, this is there's a lot to talk about. We'll obviously bring the analysis later on because it's still going to happen. In Hype Unit, they're not going to let this one go easily, at least in my estimation. They're rounding things out with a really nice lineup. They've got the Makoa and Khan this time around, but Welsh is on that Victor, and we know how dangerous that could be. Oh, no, you better second chance, buddy, because you're not going to get one. Big kill there from Welsh.
He is good, man. He is just good.
He really
never
is.
misses shots in clutch situations. Tracking is phenomenal into these high ground targets as well. Welshmania has just been an absolute treat to watch today. He throws the keyboard in the garbage. He's one of the few console player still playing on controller as well, has not made that swap, and certainly looking good for it.
You better watch out here. It's Tay having to use that second chance.
These guys merely adopted the Tyra, the Vivian, the Victor.
Exactly.
Welsh was born in it.
Fanatics, though, in a perfect spot to just get back out, regroup with his team. Really loves the angle there, but they find Welsh. And Welsh, we know how good he is, but we know just how crucial he is to this lineup. Shoulder bash has to be used preemptively here, otherwise they can block off the line of sight. 72% and counting. Now it's starting to get dangerous here. There's that block. There's the kill. Poison finds a double.
He is just sitting on the high ground, absolutely teeing off on Cyclone. Nobody's even really reacting to his presence. Stigma takes down Smutny. Barrage gets nothing. That'll just about do it.
That's pretty much it right there. Great stuff, though, overall from both teams. But Hype Unit looks like they will come out on top in round 1, and they'll take the first point on Stone Keep. 2 minutes now on the push. They have the Dread Serpent ready as we look through some of the support's eyes here. West Side, 8% away from through time and space. Fanatics having to retreat a little earlier, I think because he gave that ground up. It just opened a lot of room for Makoa and Fanatics to get into that back line and really cause havoc.
Well, he's going to get a double stun here with his Seismic Crash. I'm just finding it really hard to vote against Makoa and Atlas on the same squad. Maeve is definitely like, if she performs, she's really, really good. If she doesn't, she's not. But so far, Poison has just shown very safe, very, very, I think, reliable positioning. And then he made that nice rotation really up to where Slopodopoulos is shooting. He was up on this lane, just throwing knives into the back of people's heads. And like I said, nobody could really even react from Cyclone. I'm not even sure if they were aware of it before it was too late. Always having the potential to dive Mr. Welsh Mania. He's been so critical. I don't think there's been a team fight that they've won that he has not been a part of. So if Poison can make these moves, dive Welsh Mania, and keep him off of the field, this is going to be a completely different story.
And he just opens up so much space for them. But I'll say Slop's been playing very nicely. I think what we're really seeing, Nick, is just Fanatics forced off the entire time. This whole set, the first time having to play Ash, it's just not looked the same for him. Slopodopoulos with a nice kill on the Stigma. Maybe that's what they needed. Although he trades his life, they've gotten a lot of damage off the table.
Well, Welsh was able to turn that one around. Poison tried to gun him down in his own spawn. Respawn proximity advantage for the defense. He's going to reinforce this fight faster. So if they lose the same amount of players on both sides, whoever's defending is likely to be able to stabilize. Probably bring it out at the end of the day. 43 seconds on the clock. Still some ultimates left. A couple burned in that fight, but Assert Dominance, Time and Space, Exile, and Ancient Rage are all ready to go for whoever wants it.
As we kind of hold this high ground, Fanatics has a decision to make. He obviously wants to keep the range from Ash to his advantage, but he may have to get up close and personal. If any ults are sacrificed, he has one of the more impactful time-turning ones. And this is one where through time and space is just going to maybe allow them the enough poke, enough pressure to get some kills on the follow-up. It seems like that is the case. He's just going to sacrifice the shoulder bash, get in there. There's really no way to get out of this if you are Atlas. The shield does come through, though, and Tay finds a big kill, proves me wrong. And can they get back in touch? I don't think so.
No sirree. The wall goes up. Slopodopoulos will claim Williams' life, and a 1-1 scoreline will send us into round 2. Missing a couple of key ultimates from Cyclone. The Evil Mojo is about 5% off, but that's about one shot if you want to really split hairs there. Barrage, close but no cigar as well. I'm looking for Barrage to be played off of Assert Dominance or Seismic Crash. Both of those ultimates do 500 and 600 damage respectively, so it's not enough to grab kills, but those are very impactful AoE crowd controls, and it's absolutely what they need to make use of if they want to get good Barrage damage.
And the moments that he's found damage off of Barrage just from no setup has been really valuable for their team because they don't have to try to coordinate that. And he's just doing it by himself. It relieves a lot of the pressure from Fanatics, and then he's almost in follow-up position versus create position. And that's the 0-3 that we aren't used to seeing from him, whereas now the Atlas on the side of Tay is becoming much more effective and giving them a lot more room to operate. Exile activated. He's going to cancel it out because it will not find much, and they'll actually go down immediately. 2 down, so Cyclone in control.
Definitely aware of where Poison would be flanking from. But Hype Unit had to fight completely a man down that entire time. And this Cyclone squad is a very, very hard composition to fight against in a clumped, closed-in environment. Making another attempt at this one. Poison has to make his move now.
And what a Dread Serpent that was, Nick. The move was made. Slopodopoulos doesn't even know where the damage is coming from. He won't have time to adjust. Best thing to do is back off, I think. No comeback mechanic at all. And they'll get another go at it. Barrage almost charged up. Again.
Yeah, this is one of those, it's hard to call a loss because of how much they were able to grab on the objective. However, Ancient Rage is ready to go, and I would take Ancient Rage in a fight over Seismic Crash, the only 2 ultimates currently available. But once Barrage is paired with that Seismic Crash, things definitely change a little bit. The zone is good, though. You can see Williams so happy to get aggressive with Ancient Rage still available.
Yeah, you know he's dead. There's no way he can get away from it. The reason I was thinking that maybe a Seismic Crash would have been good preemptively was just because of the fact that you can maybe pick off Poison if he was a little over-aggressive. Obviously, it's a risky part on the Maeve, and now it's just a big brawl. So what can they do? They've got to utilize together. A big heal here from Slop would be huge for the team. He'll find one, but he'll trade his life as a setback will send Thanatix back and out of range to be able to pick up the Vivian, who's rotating for Hype Unit, but they've lost their healer. That is crucial.
They lost a lot indeed. Stasis Field goes out. They're trying to clean up the Nara rather than capture the objective, though, and finish what they started. Wall goes up. Nara gets out. Midnight is used by Maeve, but not a whole lot gained off the back of it. Cyclone are still in a winnable spot.
They are, but they have to get Welsh Mania to safety. That's just not going to happen. Who's going to pick him up? It's going to be Slop. He finds Welsh, and he finds Poison, and he avenges Welsh, and they get the point. Look at that. They must have stepped off, Nick, just for a moment. That's all they needed.
If I'm being honest, I'm a little underwhelmed by that Cyclone team fight, and they still get the point. I didn't really like Welsh's positioning there. I don't know what he was doing down in the meat grinder, but he got obliterated for it. That assert dominance, what was the point? Who was up there? Nobody was stunned. He didn't gain anything by holding that particular space. But they still got it done. This very objective-minded game style, almost reminding me of like a Na'Vi from Cyclone, is paying big dividends for them in this side against Hype Unit.
And look at this, Poison being very aggressive here. He's actually fighting for his life right now, and so they know there's actually a little bit of pressure when a lot of times there isn't. They've been in real smooth sailing for a lot of the PML and for a lot of their matchups ever since Poison and Stigma have joined this unit to be as hype as they are. But right now, Cyclone, devastatingly dominant in so many situations, and even when they've messed up, it feels like they've found success. It's Money with a little bit of a understanding that he's dying one way or another, so he's going to regroup with his team.
Well, the game can't end here in this round. Scoreline is 1-2 here. The defense for Hype Unit would even things up. Well, she's got to be careful with this positioning, man. It's making himself very open and available. Being slain from a whole variety of angles. Vivian trying to backpedal her way out of this situation against the Inara. Doesn't want to go down. Perfect pocket healing from T-Mac, though. Keep Stigma alive, and he's just going to gun down one, but can't gun down two. More return kills come through for the offense up here on the high ground. Koa is very isolated. I don't know if he'll be able to grab a kill. He has to hold that L now as the offense can resume, but only with 40 seconds on the clock. There's not a ton of time to work with. Maybe 1, 2 if you're fast, good attempts.
And there's just been a lot of... It's just been so interesting. Thanatix actually is under pressure and takes a fight with Poison, who dies. And Thanatix shows up and actually ends up finding another kill towards the end of that fight as they continue to push. And this is what they need from him, really having these min-max moments go his way. No shield up for a second. Can he survive? No. Poison will overextend to reach him, and that extension will prove valuable as they will now settle down any pressure. It will be a 2-2 as we head into the next round. Both teams have a chance then to capture and push for the win. Cyclone, it would finish off the set, be the first win for Console over a PC team in history in Paladins.
Plenty of ultimates to work with as well, so this one just comes down to who uses their resources better. And like I mentioned in the first round, or in this past round, I wasn't super impressed with how Cyclone used their stuff, but they still got it done, which is scary because if you think about it, if they do start to make more or make better use of their resources, what chance do Hype Unit really have? Items coming online, though, later stages starting to be hit. You're seeing resilience for everyone on Hype Unit. This affects things like Void Grip, Evil Mojo, Seismic Crashes, assert dominances. A lot of those crowd control options are going to start to fall off pretty hard. A couple people still at Resilience 1, meaning you can still make good use of them, but these front lines, if you want to slay them via CC, you have to make sure that you're still focus firing them because they're not going to be CC for long.
Look at this, Evil Mojo already off the bat, but it doesn't find much. And It's countered out by the Midnight, but there's a beautiful assert dominance. It's going to find a kill. Stigma cannot outrun this, or can he? He backs up just enough, but look at the shoulder bash. One goes down, and he's looking to find the second. Dipping, diving, dodging in between the shield, but Stigma's damage lasts too long, and he finds the eventual kill.
Well, and ours not going to be able to last too much longer either, because I think I saw some bulldozers come through for Hype Unit as well. Out goes the sensor drone.
Yes.
It is Bulldozer 2, so Stigma's going to be able to rip that wall to pieces out very quickly.
Papadopoulos has been a silent but deadly compatriot to the damage coming through from Welsh Mania, and those two together have really taken half of Poison's health away and forced some cooldowns that are very important. That's the second Prowl, I would assume, and that's his second pounce, so he's going to be out of this fight for a little bit, playing more of the poker. But look at that. Papadopoulos chasing him down in the backside. He's trying to find a kill. He can't quite find it yet, but look at how low Poison's health bar is. Finally getting healed back up, but that's resources away from the front line.
Stigma can't decide on a target. Stigma won't get any kills, but he still maintains very, very good positioning. Welsh Mania just drives home that frag from the low ground.
And this is huge. Can he get it? He's got a track on it. Poison. He goes to the Midnight, but will the clock strike for Welsh Mania? He's going to run away. He guesses wrong, but will it end up that he finds himself a better angle overall anyways?
Vivian's going to be coming back soon. Welsh has to be careful with his positioning.
Too much to do.
His frontliners are falling. He's set back, and look who's home. Vivian just trucks him out of the blind spot. Hype Unit grab the point, go on the offense, and have the chance to tie up the set.
If that Midnight doesn't come through there, it looks like Welsh can clean up Poison, and it looks like that could have been a totally different team fight. Credit to the setback as well. But man, oh man, a lot of little moments making big differences here yet again. And Hype Unit have a chance to tie this up, send it to a Game 5. Would be our first of the day, first of the tournament. Exile here on the west side. They're really looking around this corner.
What can they do with it? They're setting a good pace for it. Fear comes through. I don't think it hits anyone. The idea was right, just the angle was wrong. 1 for 1 so far. 2 for 1 now in favor of the offense. 2 for 2. Evening things back up. Remember, these even trades likely to be mostly in favor of the defense because their reinforcements spawn right here.
Really just phenomenal play from Welsh, though, to be able to be so lethal, and that's what's changing these fights, giving them a chance as well. When he finds these moments of taking down Stigma right before he can go, even with the high ground, it's been something that's been really crucial for them. But high ground has been the key. They found it once in a fight, but a big Dread Serpent allowed Poison, when he was in that backside, to retake and find some easy kills. And here's another one, a Midnight, so crucial for them. Poison's gonna find another one. Is this Hype Unit? Send it to a Game 5.
I mean, he is just he's a stealth bomber. He pops the Midnight, gets in there, makes his strafe run, 2, 3 kills.
I think that's it.
And that's pretty much it. This one might go quietly into that good night. Cyclone have some ultimates to work with, but such late game resiliences, I don't know if they're going to be able to get it done.
It's a big wall, and they're fighting by the base. Don't think you can get a kill there. It's up to Smutney, but Smutney cannot last that long. No use to go into the next round or the next game with your ultimates up, and a hook there will clean up Thanatix. This is going to clean up the Victor, and it looks like all but a trickle. Evil Mojo already expended. This does seem to be going the way of Hype Unit. And,
my goodness. Okay.
But it hasn't gone quite yet.
Not if I have anything
Not
to
quite
say
yet.
about it, boys. Smutney crashes down seismically, you might say. Does get 1 kill, set back
Needs
on the
his ult.
Thanatix. They are just fighting tooth and nail. We may
kidding
have
me?
called this one a little bit too early. People are starting to respawn.
Are you kidding me?
This is the oh no! After all that, bro, it goes through. Hype Unit. They'll even up the set. That was fun.
Oh, that was fun. A little scary.
That was like the longest conga line in history.
Man, nobody looks too happy. You can't tell who won.
No.
That's quite a unique one right there.
Oh man, that was funny.
Quite a long game. Not even we were sure who was going to actually win that one.
Yeah.
But it did end up being, I think, the difference, you know, in the little things and in that point fight that ended up kind of working out. We saw that it was sloppy from Cyclone. The first point fight that they ended up winning. The second time, sloppy, but they couldn't quite do it. Great stuff from Poison and the rest of the squad. Let's send it back to the desk and get ready for our first Game 5 of the day.
Well, they're going to be coming through again for a game number 5, and I have to agree. I think that is the longest time I've ever seen. Like, it wasn't overtime. It wasn't, but it was just, I've never seen a team throw that much kind of resilience, I guess, at keeping a payload from moving an inch.
Yeah, exactly. That was a crazy stagger. That honestly could have still gone either way, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It was just too close. Like, the cart was just so close.
If Makoa was an inch
back,
further back,
time for the
wouldn't
Victor
have
to
been,
get on.
wouldn't have pushed forward.
Yeah, and that whole game back and forth, honestly, like, I have to give props to the tanks for Cyclone.
Yeah.
I think they had such a good game, especially against the likes of a McCohen and Atlas. I think Fanatics was putting on a ton of pressure, and Smutny, that objective time added up. It got them so many fights.
And I mean, you look at it like Smutny's 170, so he's leagues ahead of everyone else. But I mean, even Hype Unit, like a lot of that's going to be, I think, a little bit considered, on the point, and specifically the payload, I should say, towards the very end. But healing numbers, like T-Mac was pumping out a lot. Collectively, you can have Cyclone kind of keeping up with it. It's, I think, where the slash lines start to fall apart. And that's kind of been the big thing. Cyclone has been keeping up a lot of these games, even the ones they've won. They haven't had pretty slash lines. They've just been playing the game very similar again, to Na'Vi. But this time around, I think 18, 5, and 17, 10, 6, 23, the 3, 3, and 37 there for T-Mac. Like, kind of starts to speak for itself.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, just looking at the stats, this game wouldn't look like it was as close as it was. But when you're playing the game, like just playing the idea of Paladins as well as Cyclone is, I mean, it's why these games are so close. I mean, absolutely. You can also hear little Smutny letting himself go in the spawn door. Got the spray in there. Tried to get the little stagger with the hook from Will, but still, really, this is great for Hype Unit. They needed this. I mean, obviously they needed to win, but they needed like a good turn, a fight where even though they were staggering, it was still good. Although, I don't know how great I would feel about how long that stagger was at the end, because that pip just jumped around.
That's
and
actually,
didn't get hit.
I think the point I wanted to make was, right as the game came out, Evan put it, you couldn't tell who won, who lost, because Hype Unit, while they won, they looked super stressed out about that win, and it looked like it took way more out of them than they wanted to. Like, that's one of those wins where you're like, I mean, similar to when the casters called it, where it's like, this game's over. And then 30 seconds later, the game wasn't over. And then another 15 seconds later, the game's still not over. Like, you bought so much time as Cyclone. I honestly think, even though that was a loss for them, I count it as a win mentally overall for them. They maintain control, and I think that's the biggest thing. My eyes, I guess, have to be on where Atlas ends up this next time, because so far he has won, not every game, but he has been winning a lot so far.
Yeah, and I don't know, Cyclone are keeping this so competitive, which I think Hype Unit were definitely more confident than they led on from the more humble interview. I mean, you could just tell by how the first map went. So I think Cyclone have like the mental advantage here, and I like Bazaar. It is a wide map, and I mean, Cyclone won the last wide map. They won it with a triple tank. Not sure exactly how triple tank will work on Bazaar in comparison, just because of like the rotation potential from the high ground to the low ground. But we'll have to see if they draft in a similar way they did to FG.
Well, this is actually one of those maps as well that, I mean, it's fresher. Like, this is... We've been talking about it, obviously. I think with one of the next updates, they've mentioned like map pools coming into ranked, so things like that are going to be happening. And so there's been like a conversation around, I guess, the maps, like how many maps you have to know if you're competitive, if you're a competitive player. The answer is every single one of them. And so Cyclone choosing this map, it is loser's choice, so they're the ones who want to come here. Tells me they've probably been practicing it. They probably know what they're doing, which kind of has to bring in the question, how well does Hype Unit know the map? At this point, you really want to know every single one of them, but you have to admit you can't.
There's just not enough time.
I was going to say, you can't give as much to Bazaar as you give to like Stone Keep, as you give to Timber Mill. Like, every map is going to have a different amount of playtime.
Especially since like these teams only had so long to prepare, and some of the PC teams might have honestly not prepared as much as for the PCL teams. Maybe they just didn't look at the map list. Cyclone actually choosing to take first pick for the first time today. They end up with Makoa and give up Atlas Khan, which is surprising. I think I would have thought they would have taken Atlas first, but I guess they just don't see it as good as Makoa.
Have you met my friend?
Honestly, it feels to me as though they're going to look at what just beat them and potentially run some of it. Like, obviously, the Vivian coming through. It's, as you had mentioned, probably the best meta right now for a console team to be able to play against anyone, because Vivian very much is in the meta. Same thing with Tyra, same thing with Victor. But Vivian showcased her talents against Khan last game, or 2 games ago, or 3 games ago, whenever that was today. And she's someone who can absolutely kind of handle him, keep him corralled, keep him controlled.
Yeah, definitely. And again, also great against Khan. Also, the one thing about the Atlas matchup is, like, since she's just constantly shooting, the rewind, it gets him his health back, but the shield blocks the close range shots, which is where Atlas is at his most lethal, I think, when he's at point blank range, when he can just go max DPS. The shield on the Vivian, he deals with that very, very well. So I think she's actually a good matchup into both of these tanks, although she really doesn't have a way to defend herself from a setback.
I'm just trying to live in a world where Alice isn't. Well, I guess it's so difficult when you have so many good front lines. I'm like, Alice wasn't first pick. It's like, yeah, well, Makoa was first pick. Like, well, I'd say the exact same thing if those two were swapped. It'd be like, we live in a world where Makoa wasn't first pick. Like, either one is going to be incredible.
I mean, that world exists.
It kind of
it's the PCO, normally.
We're going to have to see where exactly Hype Unit
run.
Pull this out. Genos, Leon going to come through. Leon's been very, I'm going to say hit or miss today. Like, she's been okay. Nothing too stellar, nothing too bad.
This is one of her. This is the map I would say that she is very, very strong on. Just the ability to do the eminence pressure from across the map. Getting like most people like tend to either go to one side or group on one side. So the ability to get multiple shots is pretty easy to do on this map. She can also dash down from since there's like micro high ground. Hard to say like micro high ground, but like there's just small height differentials. But her dash with the speed card will get her a lot of distance off of that. I think she's a really, really good pick on this map. I think you could argue for her over Cassie or Shaw, depending on the enemy comp.
I think, actually, if memory serves correctly, I think Virtus Pro agree with you, because I remember them specifically picking Leon on this map.
Did they pick?
I don't think they picked her.
I don't think they picked her either.
No, it was specifically coming through. It was, again, Hekate who made it come through. And you had mentioned wide map, I guess, wide champions. You pick up three triple champs.
Exactly. I mean, I think this is one of Ash's best maps, bar none.
Yeah.
Just the ability to go from one corner on the high ground to the other. There's also those little. This is kind of a tiny thing, but like there's those little flower pot things above your head that can just give you a random fast ult on Ashe if you ult under them. Like it seems small, but it really is a huge thing. There's less time to counter it. You can't counter it at all.
Honestly,
Maeve closing out the draft too.
Anytime you can land that ult a little faster is probably better for you.
Yeah.
I want to know though, in your eyes, does Hype Unit here have what it takes to burn down a triple front line?
Honestly, I give the advantage to Cyclone again. I think triple tank on the wide map with the Ashe. I think it's going to be really, really strong.
It's going to be. I mean, this one's going for the ages. Not only is it the first best of 5 we actually get today, but I mean, Cyclone have been proving that they are here to fight, and so far been doing it pretty well. Triple frontline though, you like the Ashe, like Makoa. I don't think there's ever a time people don't like Makoa. Inara on this map, how do you feel about her?
Inara on this map, I think she's a great point tank. She has a lot of room to kite, and she can wall off the openings to the point.
Well, hey, there you have it. Triple front line coming down for Cyclone. Let's go down to Evan and Nick and see if Cyclone can close this out or if Hype Unit take it.
Well, it's been a bizarre day, and it's bizarre that we've gotten to a top 5 situation here. 5 games, and the first to grab this final one will move on. And they will claim victory either for PC or for console. There's so much on the line here. So much pride at stake.
In the name of the Sticks, we salute you, Cyclone.
Real American heroes.
5, 4,
and we'll see if
3,
this is
2,
the lineup that's going to get the job done. It's what they've stuck with. It's what's worked before. Triple tank. And they now have an opportunity to really apply some pressure to Hype Unit here in this final matchup with Makoa. Good imminent strike from Stigma, but it hits a shield, so it's not going to find much damage. But a headshot afterwards will put a little bit of pressure on the Slopodopoulos. And forget pressure, he's dead.
A lot of people lining up, and that's not a good thing to do against MS Leon. There's a lot to be gained from hitting multiple targets with your presence. I'm surprised he's able to hit anyone, though. I mean, he's just shooting through his frontliners' butts, trying to just guess where people are at. He will be the only life claimed by Cyclone. Or by Hype Unit, excuse me. But they do manage to
the butts of their guns, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Through clenched cheeks, they find this damage.
The clenched cheeks of their revolver? Nah, I can't spend that one. 60% here. And Glutes on fire. Probably because of the mount. That's Mutney rode back onto the point, Nick. 66% counting. Cyclone do die quickly, but they do at least get a lot of point capture here. Welsh low, and maybe they think he's lower than he is because he gets healed right back up. Setback actually buys Dansix a little bit more time.
Ooh, and the lonely support here is pushed. Slain out. So much mobility. Wow. Poison is floating around this map, effortlessly finding everything he wants to. Hype Unit do manage to grab the first payload very convincingly. Typically, you want these triple frontline compositions to win early, so the fact that they don't, it's not a good sign for Cyclone.
It certainly isn't, and there's just no good signs. I think that's the first kill for a Hype Unit this entire game. Excuse me, for Cyclone. And wait, no, they actually...
I think they grabbed one. I think Stigma's the only one that's died from Hype Unit so far.
Yeah.
And that's because he pretty much just inted into an aura. He didn't have to, but he just did. It's the range in combination with how stacked up. Like, look at that. Like, you almost can't not hit multiple people with your presence, and that's what's so scary, given how this loadout, this build, this playstyle functions.
Some of the things that work so well for them beforehand are not working well here. When we look at the other drafts, we see EVs, we see Maves, even Drogos, if he's available, finding value in priority in the draft, and those are not present here, and it's just been so difficult. Stigma would have avoided that one pretty easily, but they finish off Fanatics in the air. They've got to hold here. Their big strength is the 3 tanks, so they will have a lot of at least staying power, you would assume, but someone has to deal with Poison and Stigma.
You would assume that, and right now they have not been able to deal with either of these problems. Khan comes ripping through, and Lightning comes ripping through. One more added to the coffers. Hype unit.
He's locked in.
Might convert here on Bazaar. This is one of the harder maps. We don't see conversions here very often. Stigma on a 10 streak. All the cooldowns ready to rock and roll. He is just ripping people.
He is locked in, man. And every Eminence just hurts them so much, and it forces all their cooldowns, and they've got to back off, but still, they've got sustain, they've got options, and this is where you're going to find Cyclone has their biggest strength, because they can have, with the close proximity of the respawns, we know how long point fights can last on this little hill right here, and that little slope down to the final push. And so it's going to benefit a big, beefy composition unless there is some type of burst damage coming through from Hype that can get 1 or 2 down quickly. Luckily, that's been happening on a lot of these corridors with the Eminence. And so if they can keep Stigma in good positions like they have, there's a chance here for Hype Unit to 2-0.
Well, 12 seconds to get their heels dug in and start moving this one through. A lot of beef to get through. Makoa and Nara still very healthy, still standing in their way. A lot of ultimates available for Cyclone defensively. If they want to pop things, they have room to work with. First kill comes through, and it's for the offense. Hype unit go 1 for 0, and now 2 for 0.
And look at this, T-Mac really contributing a lot of damage. That's it. That's all she wrote. Thanatic's going to get there. He's going to try to slam down. No chance whatsoever. They're going to ride that payload into a 2-0 lead here on Bazaar. And CycloneGG seeing what was a lead, what was a chance to do what many thought unthinkable, flashing before their eyes. Is it over so fast after they have led not once but twice in this set? They're going to have to make some big changes.
Part of it is just this backline feels so safe. One thing you can't do with a triple front line is dive and put pressure on a backline. So Poison's moving around the map completely for free. People are doing their best to keep up with him, but it's not going so well. And Stigma, he's locked in. There's no pressure on him.
Yeah.
He's literally shooting fish in a barrel outside of his one death that he took very early on. I would wager he's probably taken less than 1,500 damage since that moment.
That Manifest Destiny working so well for him in his loadout against these front lines, just creating that burst space and adding a little bit more distance to it. It's really hurting the Inara, who has to be kind of nearby to really be effective, to try to walk at you. Same with the Vivian as well. They haven't had these lines of sights. There's the Ancient Range. They're praying that this can help, and it's helped a little bit, but not enough. Big damage there. Can they find the healer? He's got to get it. Stigma looking for the shots. He'll clean it up with a little bit of grace and valor, and nobody's been mad at that.
Jeez, man. This is just so much damage from this Leon. He is hitting everything. Nobody's getting in his face. Let's pull up those charts one more time. I think he was about 30K out in front of the next closest member.
25.
And sitting close to that number now. Big, big chunks. To the point where it's very easy for Maeve. Maeve loves to get in there when they're already low and just clean up front lines. That's very easy for her. It's just a struggle right now. They can't figure out what they want to do. Tries to dip this Makoa, get him out of there. So, again, Khan is so vulnerable when he's holding somebody. He tried to get rid of that Makoa just so he could move.
I know, and you know what? It ended up actually throwing him into Poison, who ends up dying. Now, what can they do? Thanatix is back. They do have a front line, and it's now 1v1, but they haven't dealt with Stigma, and they haven't ever killed Genos. This is just a bad deal. When you have a healer go 24-0, essentially undying, there is no chance to win a game of Paladins. It's just not how it works. You've got to kill the healer eventually. And so far, they're doing a decent job.
Stigma finally gets taken out by a Cook. And
oh, see ya.
Right on cue. It's not a kill, but it's a presence now. That's something Welsh has to be worried about. He has to push forward because he knows this Maeve is going to be coming around sooner rather than later.
And that's what they needed. Now T-Mac is down. This should be a point fight won by Cyclone. That's the big thing. That cannot happen, and they have finally dealt with it, but oh, do I speak too soon? Stigma finds a big kill. He's still alive, and Lightman is here, but he's just seeing beefcakes to aim it at. Inara, Ash, Makoa, they don't care about that 1600. They're going to take their first point of the game. Console's not out of it yet.
I think the biggest thing for Cyclone is figuring out how they're going to get this Vivian in a position to be successful. Now, there's two front lines that can really get into somebody's face and bully them and box for a long time. I would prefer to see Ash try and sit on this Leon and just shut her down. You don't have to kill her, but just, you know, keep a lid on that damage, for crying out loud.
Right.
And Nara might be the one that has to make the transition. If it's not playing, you know, straight to the objective, might not be the play anymore. I don't know if they will have enough pressure if they have Inara just AFK the whole time. If Inara and Makoa can walk down a crowded hallway like that,
right,
sort of, you know, sub in Inara for what Ash has been doing for Cyclone, reassign Ash to do nothing but sit on this Leon, this will just allow Vivian to probably take some less damage and get into the fight, become involved, and be a lethal part like she needs to be. And like, you know, Welsh Mania has been this entire set.
It's an interesting point that you make, Nick. And it did work for them better this round because of comeback mechanic, and that's it. If it was a tied-up round, they would have essentially had about 40%, 50% like they did last round instead of the 87 or so, which really did force Hype Unit into some aggressive plays that maybe the pacing wasn't exactly as they would have liked since they were in such firm control of the matchup. But also finding ways to kill Team Mac consistently. I say this whenever I can. If you ever have a support that just doesn't die, it's just not the normal game of Paladins. You know, everyone dies at some point. If you have someone who's undying, it's just an advantage that you're almost never going to be able to get over until you find a way to effectively kill them. They seem like they've done that.
Especially when you factor in somebody like Genos, what he brings when he's alive. He doesn't have to do a ton of damage, doesn't have to get kills. All he has to do is stay alive and continue to right-click teammates. That's all you ask from that character. Void gripped up. Welsh Mania gets slain via the death of 1,000 paper cuts on the toes. Not in the head, not in the chest, not even in the knees.
What a way to go.
Nothing but toes exposed.
And that is just, I would, you know, forget it. No sandals for me. I will not have the footwear or the resort anywhere near me if I knew that was a potential for me to go to my grave. 1,000 paper cuts sounds like the worst. One of the worst, at least, ways to go down. But these players, they can think of a few worse things, like losing the set after spending several hours battling.
Bizarre's a wild place, man. You got to be careful.
So will wild things happen? Is this where the wild things happen, not are? Some unexpected results coming out here?
What a turn of events.
It would be for sure if Hype Unit, I think, were able to somehow not stall this out. We've expected them to continue dominating, and it feels like they have, but now this payload is slowly moving. William under pressure. He's got the Astral Mark from Genos. Thanatix not quite able to make it happen, but look at this, 44 health and a dream. The man, the myth, the legend, Thanatix makes it out alive.
He's going to be able to continue to push now. Cyclone, this is just to tie things up. Bunch of big damage from Vivian. Burst from Leon is not enough to take down Welsh. They need to get this one pushed through, to be quite honest with you. I'd love to see this one go through, and it will. Dread Serpent is all that is spent. Cyclone tie it up. One round could potentially spell the end of this set one way or the other.
And both teams now at least have a chance to defend no matter what. It means you're guaranteed probably about 4 minutes or so more of play, you would assume. This is also where things start to get interesting. A little bit more of a mind game. You don't have the initial pressure from the comeback mechanic, Nick, so do you send the Inara there? What do you do at the start of this point?
I think, again, I'd like to see a lid placed onto Stigma. I think he's doing too much damage right now. And it's damage that's onto these frontliners, yes. But like, Vivian needs to be exposed in these fights. She's not going to do as well as Leon does in these long lines of sights. You can see these slash lines aren't looking pretty. They got to find some way to turn this around.
She's on point.
They're going to play it safe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Early seismic crank just whiffs. Oh, he gets nothing from it, and Smutney's not going to be happy about that one. Poison now in a great spot here, and Thanatix has to say, let's get aggressive. We can't wait for this one, boys. We've already kind of messed up, but look at this. Already 45% and counting, and Stigma exposed, but Poison finds a big kill. Smutney with a big kill on the Poison. Are you kidding me? The man makes up for it. Huge. He gets 2 kills onto both damage dealers, and he just backs off.
What? And the wall goes up. I mean, this is best case scenario for Cyclone right now. that was not a good team fight for them. They lose Welsh instantaneously. They start popping ultimates, and it's a Nara of all people to bring it back.
And look at this. You see that damage that came through? It was really from William 355. And look at this. He's going to go down. He has to throw just to stay alive. But they do find West Side, so they've lost their front line. But Cyclone have lost their healer. What can they do about it? He's going to push on Tay. It seems like Welsh is trying to get aggressive, but look at Stigma with the Sly, Poison, with the dagger. 93% for Cyclone, but Hype Unit about to pull it back.
The problem, they just have the range. Welsh Mania cannot have any uptime in this fight. Poison and Stigma are out and about doing their thing. 93%. Hype Unit still have a long way to go.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of opportunities to goof this one up. Poison goes down. This could be it.
They just did. They gooped that up, Nick. There's no better way to describe that phrase. And I've never heard that phrase before, but I like it a lot. 69% and counting. I think Hype Unit don't like this very much because they've got to back off against 5 members constantly approaching. Smutney's found 2. This is big for him. Battle Shout going to buy some time. The shield is not enough. He's getting closer there, but they will make it out with just an inch of health.
Don't let him go. You got to finish that kill. You're so healthy. You still have what you need there. Another time and space gets Welsh again. T-Mac has been huge this round.
4-man seismic crash. Are you kidding me? Is this enough? I don't think so. He's blocked himself in with the Scion of House Ico, but it doesn't look like the Primus is going to let him go free. T-Mac finds 2, and this is looking like Hype Unit have a chance now to push and take the set, but oh my goodness, so many little moments there defining that fight and changing the fates of these players.
I mean, you can't break it down. There's just so much to talk about there, but T-Mac hits 2 through times and spaces onto this Vivian, arguably the most critical member of this lineup because no kills happen without her. That seismic crash was huge. It was awesome. 4 people stunned out, not moving, but nobody punished for it. There was just no bite behind all of that bark.
And there's no zoning as well. Both teams had a good chance of getting back in. Sometimes we've seen Bazaar just be lethal. Virtus Pro, Dosip showed us that with the Inara wall, and there was no way you were getting back, but this time doesn't feel like it's the same way. I know this payload is moving, but gosh, just for the viewer and casting perspective, I hope we get another point fight. I think that'd be the most fun thing to watch here. It's already gone close to the wire. Let's send it all the way down. But Poison looks like he smells blood in the water.
This is just 1 knife, and it'll cost him his life, but he does get at least 1. If he hits all those, he probably kills both those people. They all die regardless. Tay cleans up Welsh before going down himself. Trade for trade for trade for trade. Now everyone has to sort of back off, regroup, get their feet under them. Ultimate's starting to come back up.
Again,
we talk about Ancient Rage and assert dominance. T-Mac's on his way to his 3rd through time and space this round at 97%.
And a 19 streak for him again, only 1 death this entire game. It's been a conversation that unfortunately they've just had to have and say, agree to disagree. There's no way they're going to get the job done chasing him. It hasn't worked. And they realize they've just got to maybe focus on other things. But T-Mac finds Welsh again. Are you kidding me?
3, 4, 3 on the connections. That might just do it. With him dead, I don't know how they're going to be able to fight this one out. Cyclone have no damage.
Now, you've got to do it. He tried to hit his head down, but he's going to get actually a better vantage point, but they're going to kill him before he lands.
No.
Okay, here's what they need. Dread Serpent out of the gate. They know they have it. Smutney's going to try to contest, and if he buys that peel with the seismic crash, they may not need to force the resource there, but they will do it anyways. And Thanatix, he will be back now, but it's just so little, so late. Can they even buy enough time?
Hands are up
this
in
is
the air,
it.
up, down.
He's
the banister is planted. Thanatix manages to keep this hope alive for just a little while longer. A double kill, 9 seconds on the clock. Cyclone
T-Mac's there.
Still have some ultimates to work with. He is hiding. He has a huge streak right now, and he's just going to bail.
Yeah, and that's the smartest thing to do for both teams. T-Mac doesn't want to give the streak up, even though he doesn't have a lot of kills, so it won't get that ultimate charge because that's actually kills only. However, what it does allow is both teams to get 1 more go at it. With Hype Unit, you would think having an advantage in ultimates, but surprisingly they don't.
Yeah, and if you split hairs and look at the ultimate charge that they're going to get ults first because they're at like 70s and 80s%. Nothing is available right now except for Sentinels. And you really got to look at T-Mac hitting 3 for 3 time and spaces that round onto Welsh. My mans would be 10 and 10 if he didn't have to worry about that all. He's 10 and 13 right now, made negative through the sole efforts of T-Mac here. Welsh has got to be more careful about getting caught. He goes in a morale boost as his final item choice. I would have picked up Nimble just to get the hell out of these laser beams.
And it seems like he just is maybe getting caught holding down that right mouse button and obviously aiming down sights. It slows down your movement. It's going to make sure that she's obviously a lot more susceptible. Smutny here getting picked up. Does he have Earthen Guard? It's a lot of resources. Enlightenment now not used. CC immunity or damage reduction. Will they get 2 for this? No, just 1. Poison on the push, but can they counterattack here with a big hook?
They're flustered, man. They don't know what to do off the back of that overpower. Give us the man advantage to hype unit early.
That's right.
They're kind of just now getting down onto the objective, though. Tying up and now passing Cyclone. Exile will be the next on the chopping block. Hits 2 people there with a nice presence. Big damage goes out and cooldowns reset.
But not much at all. They need T-Mac and they see him. Oh, he got low. Will they finish him off? You got to count Welsh Mania for that. It's William. He finds Welsh, and now that is a big sign to go, go, go if you're hype unit. But Fanatix finds Poison, and Smutny gets traded as well. Will it be another? No, through time and space this time misses. The man with a 29 streak looking to make it 30, and he just might, but the reload is there. Will that cost him that final kill?
Honestly, T-Mac is positioning so well right now. He's pumping damage into these
96.
frontliners. He's putting thousands of damage on their death recap. This is such a phenomenally played and positioned game by T-Mac.
But Smutny's back, and he's buying a little bit of time. Westside has to slither away. Poison finds the kill. That's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Hype unit, they're going to take this one. They're going to win. And Console will have to wait yet another day to finish off PC at the MSI. In fact, they won't have to wait another day. They're just going to have to win next match. Otherwise, it won't happen.
Close one.
But that was close.
Definitely a Herculean effort from those guys. Big GGs out to Cyclone. Just a couple of little things you could tell. Maybe some of the inexperience really starting to shake the confidence. There wasn't a whole lot of target prioritization. Maybe not so much after that overpower. It's a really tough thing to bounce back from, but in those moments, that's really where you have to bread your butter if you're going to hope to get to a championship.
And you could say the matchup really let them down on Bazaar and maybe the newness of the map, but not being able to deal with the healer at all in those point fights. 1 death in 18 minutes on the T-Mac. That's tough when he's playing Genos. Let's send it back to the desk and wrap it up. Hype unit, grab the victory here as we go all 5 games in our 3rd set of the day.
Smutny has never had a bigger backpack on his back, and they still couldn't get carried. They tried so hard. They got so close. You can see their hands being shaken now. There were a lot of things that went right for that guy on the right-hand side of the screen who's now standing the very back for Cyclone. And then so many things that went just wrong here and there for other players that came through.
Yeah. There were a few things I was mentioning as we were going on. Like, there was one thing I kept harping on, and I want to see the post-game stats because I want to see the build of the Vivian because I wanted to see if he had any benefit for the Iron Sight. Because if he didn't, because he was in Iron Sight a lot.
Kresnik was having a conniption.
I believe he moved faster out of Iron Sight.
Yes.
And he was dying a lot to Genosalt. Fantastically placed through time and spaces by T-Mac, don't get me wrong. But, man, he was eating those for breakfast. You know what? I think that first card... I think that's Lifesteal. I believe that's actually a different Vivian build than I'm normally used to seeing. I believe that's 20% Lifesteal. Yeah, I think that's Lifesteal. Okay, so I don't believe he actually had a benefit to Iron Sighting.
So it was one of those moments, and this is actually very specific when you were talking about Welsh, was because he loses you lose field of view. You lose the amount that you see on your screen in general, and you move slower, I think, just by aiming down the sights. And there were a lot of times that this man right here, T-Mac, caught you in an ult because of it. Again, there were so many plays, and actually a lot being made by the support, but Undying, a 36.5 KDA, like you can't make up those kinds of numbers.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Essentially
T-Mac played really, really well. I mean, in the past, people kind of pegged him as like a Dombo one-trick who could like play Ying under pressure, and like some teams would like just give them Genos when he was really good, just because they didn't think he would position well and perform. But I mean, clearly today, even against a really aggressive triple tank composition, he showed he's got what it takes.
I'm sorry, I'm still lost in how many plays Smutny made that game and how little it got followed up with. Like, there were so many times that he made big ones. And that's actually where I think Hype Unit were able to kind of shift things over. At the beginning of that last point fight specifically, they had the overpower ready. You had a little bit of a moment where Anhara standing alone on the point, she got, I think 38% picked up. And they're like, cool, grab, kill, you're out of this game, essentially. Like, you are a non-factor. Still going to be able to make some plays as time go on. But at that point, that was, I think, that was a major turning point. I think that was the control they needed to be able to get that, and it gave him a 4-3.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, it really does kind of look like he's just standing on the point, right? But it really is beyond that. I mean, his focus fire in the fights, like he picked off the
yes.
DPSs one by one when they were trying to fight him. His cooldown usage, the walls that he had on the side that were just angled so he could still get cap time, and then backed off right before they went away. I mean, it really is more than just sitting on point. A point tank isn't just you put anybody on it. You know?
Yeah. And, I mean, seeing the performance he was able to have, the same thing can go for Fanatics, the same thing can be said for William and Tay. Like, all 4 of the tanks this game were almost picture perfect. Like, they obviously had their own little moments, but like there were so many great plays from them that I think
agree.
They can stand out.
I actually think the Fanatics had a really, really, really solid game, but there was one moment during you're laughing because I pointed it out when he got lifted when he was trying to ult in the very end, and the controller, he tried to look up with the controller, he tried so hard he couldn't get the vertical ult again.
You were screaming, if they lose this, they lose because they're not on PC. Just because it was very simply, he ulted and he got void gripped, and it was, can you ult again? He needed to look straight up to do it. It would have been very difficult. There is going to be again, hype unit moving forward. It's going to be Nemesis Penta moving into the last set of today, coming up pretty shortly. And that will determine, I guess, well, everything that we will see tomorrow. And of course, will help thin the ice of who exactly has a chance of going forward to face against NIP, to face against Na'Vi. But that's going to be, again, just a little bit. Before we get there, though, we do have an interview standing by with Hype Unit ready to tell us how they feel after a nice, lengthy 5-game set.
The dangerous damage duo here of the Hype Unit, Mr. Stigma and Mr. Poison. Poison, you've been to LANs before. This is not your first rodeo. But Stigma, this is kind of your first time around here. How's it been for you? How's your first experience been getting to be here with the team on LAN? Does it feel better to play here with the guys in person?
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, outside of practice time, outside of that, there's no problem. Yeah.
Right. So definitely a long, very, very grueling set. Did you guys expect this one to go 5 games?
We considered it, yeah. Like, we didn't think it would be an easy win.
I expected at least 4 games, but those games were so close. Jeez.
What do you think what made them so tough? Was it underestimating some of these picks from the console guys, or what?
It kind of just feels like we didn't have a feel for our draft. Like, we didn't really know what we wanted to pick against them.
Right.
Yeah.
And we underestimated what they can do against our drafts. So it just caught us by surprise.
There definitely felt like there was a turning moment when you started to get on the Mave and you really started to abuse mobility and get around this map, shooting people in the back of the head, things like that. And Stigma, you felt a little bit more comfortable, I think, on the Leon. You looked very, very, hitting all these shots. You're 30,000 damage above even Poison at that point. Was that the turning point for you once you got on Leon? You felt really, really strong about Game 5?
I think on that map, Leon's pretty strong. I think, if anything, the biggest challenge with dealing with Cyclone was just unorthodox bans and map picks, right? That lead to different comps.
Obviously, you guys have worked together here to create something that's a very threatening team, and Poison specifically with the Renegades. I want to talk about what it was like in that journey of kind of going from that team back to the amorphous level of where do I play next, what team am I on, switching teams mid-season. What's this journey been like for you specifically as a player?
It's definitely been up and down, going from PPL back to PML. It's definitely different, but I learned a lot from PPL, and it's definitely helped me become the player I am right now. So I definitely going from PPL to PML, it sucks, but I want to work my way back up for sure.
Well, it seems like Stigma, you're there to support him along that journey as well. High hopes for you as well into the PPL?
Yeah, well, goals are goals.
Goals are goals. Well, you two doing well so far. You're on the right track. We'll take a quick break. We'll be ready to bring back the final set of today's first MSI Day.